Yo, 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 yo.
What's up, bro?
Oh man. Yeah, no, that was
Luckily, I was able to watch it. Luckily, I had to beg them up.
where were you? Where were you?
At a sports bar, but preseason games, the Texans.
Oh yeah, I got you.
You know, when you get to them games or them quarters in the preseason, fourth quarter, it's hard for them. Not scrubbed.
It's rough. It's usually I get to like that you realize about that 5 minute, 5-6 minute part of the third quarter. It's like okay. They start. You might still have a couple guys you care about, and then they start pulling everybody else. I'm like, okay,
Right.
we get to the point where your O line is like on the fourth man. He's trying to make a practice squad.
Right, and them dudes, they don't really got what it takes to like lead a comeback or nothing.
Nah, that's those kind of dogs. You looking more at your role players at that point.
But man, Deuce going off, man. I was like, let's go.
And not only that, it turned into when you got to see not even just Deuce Vaughn, but like I said, I'm a believer in Rico Dowdle to an extent, but because when you watch the way he runs with some intent.
Like I was telling you, like losing Malik Davis or Rico or whatever, the risk isn't too much compared to what you're getting in return from Deuce. You know, as far as them making 53.
We're talking about this coaching staff, especially Mike McCarthy. They believe in that versatility. We're talking about guys working on playing on special teams, and especially who I was really hoping for a better showing is what Kevontae Turpin today was not pretty at all. We're talking about the fumbles. And one thing I'll give him is he has the confidence, but at the end of the day, you have to show some results behind it. You can't be telling me how confident you are in yourself. You can do this. I know I can do this. It's like, okay, look, at the end of the day, yeah, you're gonna get your opportunities, but we talking about Deuce Vaughn. Like you said, look at Deuce. Especially after you see Kevontae fumble on punt return. Right after that, Deuce Vaughn is back on kick return. They're like, okay, look, we're gonna see what he can do. Hey, I'm telling you, and then the biggest thing I was saying, what I was expecting more of, I'm expecting more out of him just offensively, Turpin. Then you watch him, then he has a drop from Cooper Rush. I'm like, okay, look, man, now you get to the point where coaching staff is gonna start again. We talking about 53-man roster. You start cutting real close to who's important and who coaches are looking for valuable. Because like you said, look at Deuce Vaughn. If you look at just the system, like we talking about Mike McCarthy, they used to run in Green Bay with Ty Montgomery and Randall Cobb. When people remember when Randall Cobb first went to the Packers, they used him like that Swiss Army knife. He was running back. They had him a receiver a little bit. And I'm like, so you look at Mike McCarthy, they're going to start looking at a Turpin and say, okay, if I can get the same thing out of Deuce, playing a little slide, I can use him in the running back. I can have him return a little bit. What do I get Turpin for?
Man, and you know, it's not anything major, but I'm still a little bit bitter about Turpin. I think it was against the 49ers where he could have returned that touchdown.
Wait. Usually, I'm the neutral Cowboys fan. I'm the one that's like, come on, hey, that wasn't even small. That was big. That was like the change of course of the game. We get a touchdown on that drive because, like you said, what was the number one thing, especially Trent noticed people watching that in that playoff game? The 49ers literally were doing everything they could to not win that game. Like they weren't even trying. It wasn't like they were trying to blow us out. All the mistakes we were making, it was still.
And I hate those games that we lose so close like that, bro. Those games piss me off more than just getting killed.
Especially the playoffs, because you spend the whole offseason like, there's one play right here, there's one drive right here. We had to, man. No, see, I you know what? I'm glad I didn't start this whole thing up before, because me during that playoff game, especially after we lost, I think it took me about 3 days, and that's finally why I started to get okay. Let me.
I was angry. I was angry at Turpin because that would have changed the game, and knowing that we had a meme made after us because Zeke's playing fucking center, man, is just something that.
And you know what? You know what that tells me? That tells me exactly the biggest issue, and we already. First of all, of course, like I said, we're putting up numbers. We're gonna get the stats. We're gonna throw up some numbers. But what happens at the end of the day? Results. Like you said, Kellen Moore, we're gonna have the number one scoring offense. We're gonna have Dax almost 5,000 yards. We're gonna have running back with 1,000 yards. We're gonna have, but at the end of the day, you're looking up what happens when you play against those real D coordinators during the playoffs, where they know how to scheme, they know how to take away what you want to do. That's you talk about guys. Look at Bill Belichick. You talk about all the time. They say what made them so consistent over all those years. Of course, Tom Brady, but is it Bill Parcells? I mean, not Bill Parcells. Bill Belichick understands how to take away what you want to do. And again, most D coordinators, they don't understand the small nuances of, okay, CeeDee Lamb is pretty much working the seams this whole game. Dalton Schultz is kind of working the middle of the field, the middle field, I guess, check down. Then you have Gallup taking deep shots. And then what happens after that? A lot of defenses will just, defense coordinators more so, will just continue. They're gonna keep it rolling until you look up, and next thing you know, the Cowboys put 30 on your head. You look at a real D coordinator, he's gonna start trying to figure out like pretty much trends and habits you've been running for the first few drives, especially Kellen Moore. And the number one thing, what we always say about Jason Garrett, they don't understand how flow of the game. They say they get a call sheet, a play sheet, and it's like they have 100 plays and they just start calling plays as they see fit. Not just, okay, the 49ers are taking this away. Let's start working them right here a little bit.
I think we have a lot, Vaughn, and hopefully if we incorporate Turpin more into the offense, we have a lot more versatility guys or gadgets than we did last year or the years prior. Yep. Like, he's just a receiver. He just is. Deuce can be a lot more other things.
Yeah.
Turpin, I'm still waiting. I'm this close to being on Turpin's side. Yeah. I'm still waiting because there's too many fumble key situations and shit like that. So I want him to be good, and I know he can be, but I'm still waiting to see it. So I hope if Deuce makes this team as the primary punt or kick returner, then perfect. Let Turpin just be the receiver. We know he's fast. Yeah. Vaughn is just fast, but Turpin sometimes he's too scared or too hesitant or will fumble or something, and I don't know if that's worth it to me.
He has one of those. What I think Turpin's biggest problem is he has those. He's one of those players I don't feel like you can kind of use, and I don't want to say he can't be versatile, but I don't feel like he's one of those players that you can kind of bounce around. Okay, put him at punt return, put him at kick return, put him at running. Because originally, again, going to this game, I have the belief that he can do it, and I'm not off that like fully or anything. I still think he can, but I also think Turpin is just one of those players. He gets in his head easily. He's one of those, and to me, that's one of the guys you can't say winning championships with. I'm talking about like if he's one of somebody that you're really relying on. Because at the end of the day, first of all, we talk about playing for the Cowboys. The lights are bright. Period. Every single game. You in a preseason game and the lights are bright. Look what you're doing in the preseason game. So when you get to the playoffs, what happens? This is the NFC Championship game. It's 3rd and 4. We need you. We putting you in. Hey man, knock on wood, nobody getting hurt or anything. All right. You looking up, you like, hey, we gotta take Brandon Cooks out for a couple plays. Hey, we have to take out CD for a couple plays. Hey, Turpin, we just need you in, get this quick 5 yards. Drop. I can see him dropping it and it's like, oh man, like
he's definitely a body language guy too. Like when he messes up, you can see him, freak out.
And I'm like, I can deal with mistakes. You can't deal with mistakes if you're not learning from your mistakes. You know what I mean? Like, because of course, like you said, drops happen. Everybody drops at some point, but we're talking about like you should not be getting consistently bad. And we kind of get to the point. He's only been on the team 2 years,
right?
And in less than, matter of fact, I'm not even gonna count this as 2 seasons yet because we only started the season. So let's say 1 full season, we have enough to show when he gets to his, I guess, kind of like what you said, his body language. You can read his body language. We kind of have a trend at this point of being like, okay, you coming up small in big moments. Like, hey, we don't need you to do much, but we need you to do this. If you can't make that happen, see,
the fumble's popping up too, and it's just like, come on, man.
That's the number. I think I tweeted that. I was like, oh, we're gonna call it Twitter still. Yeah. we call it Twitter.
I don't know if it'll help Turpin or help just that whole those key moment situations. As I saw a report today that we had a lot more. Because, we have obviously been hiring a lot more analytical guys from baseball and shit. Yeah. But I saw the report today because every time they would show Dan Quinn and stuff in the background, you could see these guys and the people who recognize them are like, oh, that's one of those strategic gameplay, game time people. And I don't ever recall in the past having those distinct guys, and you've seen reports about that.
Yeah.
Seeing those guys to say, hey, let's punt it here. Or like,
exactly.
Turpin fumbled the last drive, his odds are fumbling 20%, so let's just go for it. Or like, I don't know how in depth they go, but having those guys could honestly be one of those things that you don't even think about, but it could help us so much.
Yep.
But I'm just happy that we have guys like that. And now that Kellen Moore's gone,
yep,
the whole Jason Garrett coaching tree is gone.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I know when we hired McCarthy, people, was like hit and miss and hit. But what McCarthy is for sure saying, but what he's doing is stuff that that is just super refreshing to hear.
Yep.
I don't really recall hearing those certain things happening.
Yep.
Whether it's the coaching staff or his mindset or things he says happening as much in the past. I guess Kellen had so much pull, man, that I was, I don't even know. Like, he apparently ran everything, because now that he's gone, McCarthy's like, oh, now we're gonna do this.
That's probably the craziest thing you saying that. Like, I literally, it was almost like as soon as Kellen Moore's out the door, you hear Mike McCarthy like, oh man, okay, we're gonna do this now. We're gonna do this. I'm bringing in this new coordinator for this. I'm gonna this new run game.
Yeah, we got all these analytical guys coming in.
What were we doing before then? Like, who's in charge? Who was calling shots? Because again, you can't tell me it's the guy's my head coach, and all of a sudden we lose an offensive coordinator, and he feels like we have to scrap everything. It's like we're at the point, like I said, well, because again, that take to me, that's like Kellen Moore came from that Jason Garrett, Scott Linehan tree. We know Jerry and Steven, they love Jason like a son and a brother for some reason. So Kellen Moore, I'm not surprised. He's the last one, I guess, of that lineage, that coaching tree, I guess you could say.
Right.
So I'm not. That wasn't surprising to me. It was like, hey, you know what? I felt like and also I was like, we're looking at those young guys, whether it's with Sean McVay some years ago, of course, when he first took over for the Rams.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's looking for that new Cliff Kingsbury when he first went to the Cardinals. Of course, they think he's a new hot shot guy. You have Kyle Shanahan. Like, these guys are taking over for teams.
Right.
So young. Jerry, I think Jerry and Steve, I think they wanted Kellen to be that new young guy that's going to come in, light it up, and all of a sudden now we look up, you have your new coach for the next 15, 20 years, kind of, you know what I mean? And now in sports, Jerry, and they love getting that acclaim, so they'll be able to say, hey, you know what? We let this guy grow. We got a couple rings out of this. This is what it is. And I'm like, because to me, that's the issue. That's what happened with Jason Garrett, of course. They wanted to be the ones to say, we gave him his first shot. He took off with us, and
all the way, yeah.
And of course, then you end up, when you do that, you hang on too long. Especially talking about looking guys' careers we wasted.
Right.
Talking about DeMarcus Ware, Jason Witten, Romo. I'm saying we're talking about guys that they didn't get to reach their full potential because you were scared to go get one of them. Because number one thing I'll say to this day, even up to this point, of course, we're talking about post-championship era Cowboys, the 90s. I'm like, to me, the best coach we've had to this point, because if you look at the roster, you look at what we didn't have and what he was able to squeeze out of that, to me, I say it's Bill Parcells. Because what did he have? He was no nonsense. He understood but biggest thing, he understood attention to detail.
Right.
And to me, that's what I'll give Mike McCarthy. I think Mike McCarthy is going to have us more focused on the small details, which is because, like he said, he's not interested in having the number one offense. He wants the number one team.
Right.
Overall. And I'm like, you can't, that's not something you can just kind of pick up on, because especially we have on, look at the defense, of course. I'm like, especially this year, we haven't even started talking about the game itself yet.
Right.
Hey, we got some
But
look here. Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, and I think Parcells was the last. What's up, brother? Doing good. I think Parcells was the last of that era where analytics and all that stuff didn't really matter. And
if you brought him analytics, he would have taken it like a slap in the face. Like, we.
Garrett, and maybe not at first, but when Jason Garrett, took over, or midterm, or when and it was never said, but you could just tell that we were one of the last, or we were probably the only team who didn't have anything analytical at all. when we should have got on that train whenever it started coming about.
Yeah.
Whoever. So we waited too long in that aspect. And then, like I was saying, now that Kellen Moore is on, now you hear all this analytical this, analytical that.
Yeah.
Oh, we got guys to take care of this. The third down guy, the fourth down guy, the second down guy.
Yeah.
Each guy has their own like down and just.
Yep. And that's exactly like. So like I said, it always feels like we're just a step behind anyway. Just kind of like, we have been. That's why I would say the biggest thing, you have to just pretty much figure out you have to figure out what kind of team you're going to be, like, period. Because to me, I feel like that's the number one thing of starting when you get to any off season, start any training camp process, OTAs, all this stuff before training camp. You need to figure out, okay, what kind of team do we want? I feel like that's where it starts. And of course, the best coaches know how to improvise. They know how to adjust. They know how to change. So if I come into the season and say, look, I want to have a balanced offense. Like, I mean, if I can say perfect world, we're going to run it 50%, we're going to throw it 50%.
Right.
Then when the season, now not even season, but when OTA starts, when training camps, all that things like that start, the number one thing you're going to be able to tell is who are your horses. I planned on us having a better run game. We don't have it. But you know what I did find? Our offensive line blocks the pass very well. We have multiple pass receivers. We have an open type offense. And then, so you adjust a little bit. You tweak it. Right. We never, for some reason, know how to tweak it. It's like, hey, we say we're going to be a running team. We come to the season, we don't know we can't run the ball. O-line, the running backs not having a proper vision. What we do? We're going to keep running the ball. And it's like, we look up at a certain point and we like, that's when we would hit that 8-8 road every year. Because we like, instead of just going, and it was so many times doing those Jason Garrett Romo seasons, 8-8 season, where we look up, and I would look up and I say, if you're watching us, we literally have the perfect offense to just go full speed into this passing thing, because that's the team that we have. Like, it doesn't. I understand you want to run the ball, of course, and you have to kind of do it in certain spots too, just to keep the defense honest. But there will be times where we would kind of want to stick with the run, and we look at it, and I say, but if you look at us, we have 3 capable receivers, and at that point, we still have a Jason Witten that can get the job done. We still had, and we would kind of just fall into that. Then, of course, we fall into the DeMarco Murray stage. And then now we have a balanced team. We can figure out how to do this. The O-line is younger, and they start developing at that point. Young Travis Fredericks, young Zach Martin, Tyron Smith still. But that's what I'm saying. That's my biggest thing. I feel like just now, I feel like we're going to go into this season with an actual plan and an idea of what we want to be. And what we're going to try to aim to be. Because now, I think that's the funniest part, and I have to kind of catch myself before we start actually getting into the game. I have to actually catch myself. Like I said, it might be by second quarter. You start to get to that dragged out feel where you feel like you're actually watching a regular season game. And then all of a sudden it's like, I mean, in a regular season game, this little pass, your little dump off you had, that pass is going to CeeDee Lamb. That might be a touchdown. That might be a 30-yard game. Right. Hey, in a regular season, that little dump off to Rico Dowdle, and he takes it out and fumbles it right before the goal line. That pass that's going to Tony Pollard. Right. That's going to Deuce Vaughn. I'm saying these are plays where you're going to be looking up and you're saying, Brandon Cooks
in the real
game. Cooks, he doesn't need, like, we're not going. And so you saw Jalen Tolbert out there making plays today. Jalen Tolbert.
Man, I'm glad.
Literally,
it was
especially like you said. What is that? Brian Schottenheimer said the biggest thing he's noticing in him is, Mike McCarthy. He said he notices is he's just more comfortable. He's confident. He's relaxed out there. Like, I feel like last year, like you said, it was his first year, and I always try to be balanced. I caught myself. I was like, "Oh, Jalen Tolbert will come in here. He's gonna make Michael Gallup sweat
like a dog at South Alabama."
South Alabama.
Mentally, but then he comes in, you don't hear anything from him. He don't speak. He don't say nothing. So it's like he ain't pumped or something,
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you see him actually post. He was posting on, and like, it's weird to say, but his Instagram posts, of him training and stuff, and then practicing with Cooks and CD. Was just making him a man again.
Yep.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And now that he scored, and he had that catch that was pass interference. Right?
Down the field, down the.
But that was 30-yard pass.
Yeah.
So it's like, good, because I was I was upset with him, and there's nobody happier that Noah Brown is gone than me. So Tolbert needs to wake up, So I'm glad that Tolbert is going to be good, hopefully.
You get on Noah Brown. And Noah Brown turns into like to me. You know what? I want to say even before about maybe mid-season. No, actually, I'm gonna say before all the way leading up to that Jaguars game. So after the Jaguars game, that was my first time where I'm like, I wasn't drinking the Kool-Aid anymore because it was like, okay, because now that's when we start getting deep into the season. Now we're winning games and we stacking wins.
To me, Cooper Rush helped them out a lot.
Cooper Rush helped out a lot. That's why I say going into the regular season or going to the season, you always are kind of naturally on edge because you don't know how your team's going to be. You know what I mean? Everybody comes to the season expecting that team is going to be one of those or a playoff contender. And then next thing you know, you look up, your team is 2-3. Your team is 1-4. Your team is they might be 2-2 or 3-2, but they kind of teetering. It's not like they don't feel like one of the elite teams.
Right.
So I was like, we came into the season, and I'm expecting these things out of Jalen Tolbert, and all of a sudden, and just talking about all these different guys.
Yeah.
And then you look up, and we're on a hot streak now. The Eagles are hot too at this point. So you naturally gonna be watching them, and they're in your division, trying to keep up with them a little bit. But then you're watching, then the Giants are doing well.
Yeah.
So you're trying to just stay on schedule, but then now you start when you lose a game like that. I think that was the first time where I was like,
when I mean, on more than one occasion, Noah Brown cost us a couple games, especially the Jacksonville game, and those are just guys that things you can't forgive.
See,
and then of course Ford gets all the blame, and I was like, it was a pass that hit his hands on the money, man.
And that was the craziest part about Noah Brown last year is Noah Brown had games where he made big plays. So it was kind of like one of those guys. To me, he feels like one of those guys that because you're not expecting much out of him.
Right.
So he does some good stuff for you.
Yeah.
And so you kind of like ride on that wave, like, okay, maybe he might be. And I let's be clear, I never at any point thought Noah Brown was all of a sudden he's a wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3. But it's like you can be a crafty guy, find your moment in spots. Like I always correlated to compare it to like Cedric Wilson. Cedric Wilson is never an NFL wide receiver 2. To me, he's never going to be a wide receiver 3 because Cedric Wilson, to me, is one of those guys that I feel like he could probably be schemed for. And once we have, let's say he got a lot of money to go to Memphis. I mean, not Memphis, Miami. Dolphins. Yeah. He got a little bit of money to go to the Dolphins, a solid amount. And then that was before they traded for who? Tyreek Hill. Mm-hmm. That was before that trade. So once they traded for Tyreek Hill, they kind of like pushed him out the gate. It's like, okay, you have Jalen Waddle, you have Tyreek Hill. They're not going to use Cedric Wilson as like one of those guys, So I'm sitting there watching the Cedric Wilson, but I'm like his skill set. But to me, I take Cedric Wilson today just because his skill set is one of those guys that's kind of like a Swiss Army knife. He's versatile. He can play in the slot. He can play on the outside. You can kind of move him around, and he's one of those guys that will get lost in the mix.
Yeah, and then Noah Brown, he's a smaller guy. He's not too fast, so it wasn't anything. My biggest thing that I tell people is I felt like the coaching staff, knowing that we had Noah Brown, we would call because he was a blocker too, obviously.
Yeah, he's a very good blocker. Yeah,
exactly. But for some reason that upset me because I feel like we were just keeping him around to just not do what he's really supposed to do. So when he left, okay, now we actually got to work the playbook. We actually got to pass or we got to do something like we got to have an actual blocker out there. And with Noah Brown there, I felt like it was rendering the certain play calls and rendering the coaching staff.
Yeah.
For some reason, they all love Noah Brown, and I'm like, okay. I mean, he had a few good games where he caught the ball and he was a great blocker, but I don't know him drop. And I could be totally biased because the multiple dropped pick sixes or the multiple dropped interceptions just burn a hole in me, especially the Jacksonville game. We should have easily won that game anyway because we were. But that pick six, the ball hit him right in his hands. And then he had a couple more throughout the season.
Man.
Where the passes hit his hands. And, of course, I've always said that we're the worst team when it comes to batted balls getting intercepted, dude. And we can never catch them. We've been way better lately at actually being able to intercept them too. But in the past, we couldn't pick off a batted ball to save our lives. But we would always get the batted passes picked off, man.
We are one of the people that for some reason, it could be a playoff game or it's a big game. The ball, somebody fumbles the ball, we can have 4 players jump on it. Nobody's even around, and you'll somehow see the ball still rolling around, and then somebody from the other team will jump on it. It's like those kind of. We always have that one drop of bad luck, and I'm sitting here like, but to me, it's like so bad to the point that it's consistent bad luck. Bad luck is like stuff happens every now and then. It's some random stuff. It happens to us.
At a point where it was like, all right, we can't get an interception and save our lives.
Oh man, that's what to me. That's the crazy part when you're looking at like what we do have, like Diggs and these guys. Like we have guys that try to get the ball, like Deron Bland, and we talk about it all the time. How many guys we had that could play the cornerback position or things? Because I was a big Terrence Newman fan growing up, like big Terrence Newman fan. And what Pro Bowl, all that, like, because he's one of those guys that you would look at and you would look in the league and you're like, he's very underrated because what he does, you might not always notice because he's not trying to be the flashy player. He's not the getting 8 interceptions in a season. He's not one of those guys. He wasn't a big talker, but he was like a craftsman. He would kind of be in the right place and he will make the plays. Before we get to your Byron Jones and whether we're talking about, we're not talking about interceptions, of course.
Well,
but we're talking about
was the guy.
Say it again.
I said Terrence Newman was the guy. I mean,
he was the guy, especially originally. That's why I say, like, he was to me a better. I'm gonna say Byron Jones, and I'm not saying Byron Jones just because as much as we love Byron Jones, and he was shut down. Tell me when he was here. But the biggest thing is what Byron Jones drops interceptions. He will not be that takeaway. And to me, I love a guy that can shut down. Yeah. But at the end of the day, I love the mix that we have now because you're able to get that technician, just that technician route, shut down kind of guy like we're talking about a Stephon Gilmore. Right. He understands the small intricacies to like route running. He understands how to cut this off. He does, because again, especially we talk about what is the passing game. I play DB. So if you're looking up, you're gonna say the number one thing to a passing game is what? It's timing. If I can knock off your timing, because again, we're talking about a team with Micah Parsons. We're talking about a team with Tank Lawrence. We're talking about guys with like Dorrance Armstrong and Sam Williams. Right. It's especially the way that we talking about guys like that are gonna be coming after your quarterback, and you know it. You say, hey, look, if I have 3 seconds, I have 3 seconds, and that's it. Like that's it. Like it's not like, oh, I have 3.4. No, if the ball's not out of my hands in 3 seconds at most, well, I'm in trouble, or I'm at least about to be scrambling around for it. And that's what, to me, Stephon Gilmore will be, why he's going to make it so much easier on Trayvon Diggs, especially. Right. Just because Stephon Gilmore understands, look, if I see this receiver, let's say he might run a quick slant, and I can kind of tell it. I'm going to fade back on him a little bit, let him come into my body, and if I can even just force him out a little bit, and because, again, we're talking about guys that watch film. That's why you can always tell who watches film, because, again, film is very important because it helps you figure out guys' details or like kind of their tendencies, things like that.
I don't think any of them played today, right? Diggs Gilmore.
No, none of them. I think what Mike McCarthy said, 25 veterans sat today. So I was like, to me, this is a game. I was like, I want to see what Deuce was going to do. I want to see what Overshawn was going to do. I wanted to see what Mozzie Smith. I want to see what some of them were going to be able to do, especially because, again, let's even take it even a step further. What they were able to get done today. Now, throw them in the mix with
the guys that we wanted to see, and I guess we expected to see. Those guys did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Overshawn, dude, I'm telling, he's gonna grow on me quick. Overshawn is a wild man. He's fast. His talent on the sideline is incredible. And as both Longhorn fans, we already knew how he was, but to actually see it transition, his lateral quickness is insane.
It's insane. Like you literally cannot. And I said the number one thing about him, and I was telling a couple guys like after we drafted him, I was like, the best thing about him to be is because that he did come to Texas as a safety.
Right.
He did have that. So he understood range. He understood where to be. But then him also being able to play linebacker, the way that he plays, which a lot of guys that don't have, and you can't coach it. Go look at Micah. And again, that's the most extreme example. Because everybody's not going to be Micah Parsons, of course. Right. But what does Micah have over everybody else? First of all, Micah has the talent, but Micah has that intensity that you can't coach. Right. Like, you have that guy that's coming hard at you every single play. He's not trying to take any plays off. Every play could be the game-changing play to him. You know what I mean?
Overshawn broke the huddle today. So the team had to have known that that's how he is. So to see that is super underrated to me. But to see him transition. And it being I think Jacksonville had a handful of starters play. So it being, it's just preseason. You're either going from hitting Travis Etienne to hit, like, he's a starting running back. Yeah. So him playing in the first preseason game against preseason guys, it doesn't matter. You're going to hit a different running back, or you're going to hit a different guard, or just go hit him.
Yep.
It being preseason and the guys that he's playing doesn't really affect his position so much. You're just hitting a different face from week 1 of the preseason to week 1 in the regular season. You're just hitting a different dude. So it being preseason does not affect him, I don't think, at all.
At all.
Seeing him do that obviously he stood out. So it was like, oh yeah, he belongs with the first team start, or the
with
first
those guys that are And see, and
dudes.
again, it's to me, it's small things. I mean, like some people they don't care about that. I mean, I can't blame them, but it's like small. So I do like to look at the small things like that because, like I say, the number one thing, I think it was like Deion Sanders. It was a few years ago at this point. I remember it was like it wasn't even an interview, but it was like guys sitting around talking. I think Deion Sanders said the number one thing about football, he said, is 80% mental, is 20% physical. He said most guys in the league they have some level of ability that they can play the game. Right. He said some level of ability. He said whether it's like whether you fast, whether you can tackle, whether you're big, whether you're strong, whatever it is. Most guys that play in the league have the ability. He said what separates everybody else, like the stars or the guys that consistently make plays, it's a mentality. He said you have the mental toughness. He said you have the ability to make a mistake and not worry about it. Right. Don't care about it because that's not you. I can do better than I can do this. Again, we talk about even going back to Turpin. What we say, his body language. He'll make a mistake and it's like, oh man, everybody's watching
me. He don't recover from that, and then he won't. Then he's calling fair catches on punts that he should return
because he's scared. It's like, bro, this is the NFL. You go first of all, if you make a mistake, you probably gonna get an opportunity in a couple players again. So don't even worry about it.
Defense now.
You right now,
ever,
And I'm like, that's why I said, I'm like, when you watch a guy like DeMarvion Overshown, what he plays with that fire every single play, because he's not scared to, especially we Texas fans, so we see it. He's not scared to miss. And the number one thing is you're gonna get yourself in position a lot of times just by being aggressive. Right. You get yourself in position. A lot of guys they do that, especially playing linebacker. That's one of the worst positions you could ever be at to try if you're hesitant. Because first of all, we're talking about on any given play, it can be a run play. You have a 320-pound guard or center running at your full speed, trying to take you off on a block downfield. Right. And if you hesitated, first of all, if you jump that block a second earlier, you're probably in the backfield before you even get there. You know what I mean? But if you wait, now they're engaged. That's a 15, 20-yard game. You know what I mean? That's the difference between a tackle for a loss or a 15-yard game. That's how it is. And I'm like, so when you watch Overshown play, he does not hesitate. Once he thinks he sees it, just go. Because like coaches used to say, you can go back to middle school, high school, college, but whatever it is. Most coaches are going to tell you in general, I'd rather you make a mistake at 100%.
Right.
Than making a mistake at 50%. You know what I mean? Because if anything, you might sometimes if you just play 100%, you can blow a play up just off of that. You might have been in the wrong position, but you playing so hard. I've seen Micah so many times. He'll overrun somebody, but he's going so hard. Whether it's the ball carrier, whether it's the quarterback, they kind of hesitate for a second. Right. Now he's back on you just because he came at you with so much intensity. It's like, he's already.
And his one overrun makes up for because there's going to be 4 more times where he gets the fumble or the sack.
So many times. And that's what I said. I'm like, I've seen him overrun a play, but he overran it so fast to the point that he's right on it. It ends up a sack anyway. It's like you can't coach that. I'm like, and that's what I said. DeMarvion Overshown, especially after the draft, I was like, I did a video. I was like, he is going to be one of those guys that's going to grow on people so fast, just because the way that Dan Quinn uses, he looks at defensive players. Dan Quinn, he likes those hybrid players, those versatile players.
And I don't know if he will because his sideline to sideline quickness, like when he drops back, is probably, I mean, it is so good. But I would like to see maybe just 1 or 2 times him and Micah rush at the same time because they're both quick. They both have that same quickness. But if you got Overshown coming from one side and Parsons coming from the other side, I don't know how you're going to get away from that. So
he's going to get. I said he's going to get mixed in so much, just especially what's his name, Jabril.
He's got a lot to do too, to me, or for me, I should say. Cox, he did good today, but Cox he's got a lot to make up for it. I know he tore his ACL. I'm not saying, I'm not saying much, but and then you got Damone Clark showing out. All of a sudden, Damone Clark's about to be linebacker 1, and he had spine surgery not too long ago. And today he's talking to people. I'm like, damn.
That's what I said. To me, I was glad that he got to play because I wanted to see him out there without LVE. Because LVE to me is his safety blanket still at this point. He's going to what, second year in his career. Yeah. So LVE is at this point. Like I said, we of course most people to this day, I think most people are starting to finally come down a little bit just because he got the injuries and now we see him bounce back a little bit. Yeah. It's like, of course, we saw LVE his first year in the league. We're talking about just monster. We're like, hey, this is gonna be some Luke Kuechly type stuff.
Right.
All pro for the next 6-7 years,
But size alone.
just size alone. And he played, again, what we talk about, what he do his rookie year, he kind of like the same thing Jalen Smith had that first year. They both attacked and they didn't hesitate. Everything they did was with intention. You know what I mean? And you could tell when both of those injuries start to kind of pile back up for both of them, because and Jalen Smith was more, I think it was the injuries that he had already had. It just started to catch back up to him, because you could tell he started playing more hesitant. He stopped. He wouldn't engage a block before the blocker would come to him. And the same way LVE. And again, we're talking about neck injuries. So now what's the number one thing? You're out there thinking too much. You're out there thinking, instead of saying, okay, you know what? I see it. I hit. I'm going to hit it.
Right.
They start to kind of take that extra little split second. Now, instead of again, like I said, instead of a tackle for a loss or no gain or 1 yard gain, now we're talking about 8 yard gain. You're talking about 10 because you waited a second. This NFL. One split second of hesitation is a big play, you know?
And it seems other guys seem to be coming, I don't know about back around, but the guys have LVE's back. You know, Leighton is apparently an important part to everyone in the locker room.
Very.
I mean, maybe this season, you know, he's been enough, but you know what, like health wise, he takes that leap.
Yeah.
Our linebacker core, if Overshown and Clark can show out, it should be top 5, man. Because with Micah and Clark,
thank you.
I don't see why Clark isn't not going to be good. Clark has shown a lot of signs, and he has that game experience. Leighton has his flashes where he just goes crazy, and sometimes he has those thinking too much moments.
Yeah.
But if Leighton and Clark and Micah and Overshown, which I know Overshown's, you know, like a hybrid type, but he'll play linebacker, I think, if he needs to.
Yeah. I think he'll be just fine. So yeah, exactly. What is it? What was it? That was my point originally, especially on LVE.
Yeah.
Like I said, because we're talking about what we expected his trajectory and his ceiling to be after that first year, and then all of a sudden now you look up and he is completely now I want to say he's more that he's that technician. I always say whenever I pretty much I tweet it all the time when we're on game day. I'm like, LVE now is like that. He's that lunch pail kind of guy. You know what I mean? Like, he knows where to be. He's going to be in position. And he's one of those guys that even if you don't think what he's doing is spectacular, you're going to look up. And if you don't have him out there, you tell. You're like, you know what? I'd rather the guy that's going to give up a 2-yard gain than give up a 6-7 yard gain.
Right.
Because that's the now, instead of us, because now when you have a guy like, when you have a Michael Parsons on your team, having an LVE that's going to hold a play to 2 yards instead of the extra 4 is completely important, because now instead of it being 3rd and 2, it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and that's what Michael Parsons wants. He's like, give me a couple extra yards. Now you're not even in field goal range anymore.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's exactly what you're looking for. So I'm like, Damone Clark, if he can be that more athletic,
and he's shown the flashes. Clark,
he's shown
and
the
he has
flashes.
a game experience already from last season.
Yep.
Clark is going to be very underrated.
Yep.
You know, somehow he's going to be underrated, but he might end up being the starting, you know, middle linebacker and just go get your guy.
One of those guys, yeah. Especially like I said, because we are kind of getting to that point. Like, going back on about LVE again.
Yeah,
we're at that point now again where you do have to start kind of looking up and saying, okay, who are we going to start actually looking to bring back? Who are we going to let go in these next couple years? You know what I mean? Because now, again, even if you want to say people, I saw so much, especially when that training, it was a few days ago.
Yeah,
when during like the training camp pressers, and they asking Jerry about Zach. Okay, when is Zach coming back? What are we doing about Zach? And he started talking about that. We have to pay Micah. We have to pay this guy.
Hey, I don't, you know, not in like a pocket watching form or anything, but like how can Martin just afford $1 million fine? You know, like I'm not like, and then this year the CBA, you can't waive him. Like the team can't waive him or help him out. Yeah, okay, well he's going to get the new contract that'll pay for it. I think he'll probably have to pay the fine before he gets the contract. You know, I don't know.
I'm not gonna hold you, man. I looked up and I said, you know what? This is one of those situations where
there's more to the puzzle, bro.
It gets weird. Just because I said why, and my thing is, I'm never gonna like be the one to, and I'm not even saying be on the owner side, but I'm never going to be against what the player is asking for, unless it's something like insane. Like if we're sitting here today and all of a sudden we look up and Deron Bland is coming for his contract. We're not talking this years from now. We're talking his contract's coming, and we say, okay, let's say you still have Diggs. let's say a guy like an Eric Scott Jr. becomes a real player. And now we're gonna have, and that's not something like a real player. So like he plays more on that outside corner. I like Deron Bland more in the slot. Then, and if Deron Bland, he's on a contract, let's say his last year, he knows we want to get an extension done, but he comes up and says, okay, look, I want $15 million a year. It's like, man, look, like, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, because we're going to get to that point, and now that's when the coaching staff turns it into, okay, what's your position?
Right.
They can call you that's when
I can be all for it. Like at first, it's like, okay, Zach Martin wants to get paid. Okay, let's pay him. Or, the running narrative, Jerry never pays his guy. Well, while Zach Martin is holding out, we signed, 2 to 3 guys to contract extensions. And I'm like, okay, that was the first time to me that I was like, I don't think Jerry would be like, okay, Zach, in your face, Obviously, I don't know. Like, I don't know what's happening, but there has to be more. I mean, for one, his fines are over $1 million, or they're about to be over $1 million. We signed 2 dudes, 3 dudes to contract extensions. Yes, that did free up money.
Because who we get? Hooker?
Diggs,
Hooker, and then was it Wilson? Was Wilson? Oh, no, Wilson was before that.
Yeah. So it might have just been Diggs and Hooker, but to send 2 substantial contracts that were not this year, but the overall aspect were still money. Yeah. So, and I mean, Zach,
it wasn't like $2 million a year contracts.
Right. It's like Zach Martin is still in the top 5. He just wants to be like 2 or 3, I guess, or 1 or whatever. And I understand that, but I don't know. But we were able to sign guys.
You know what I say? It's kind of also to the point where I'm kind of like, if Zach Martin, I saw it floating around the last couple days. People were like, hey, if Zach doesn't want to come back, you should look into trading him. No, let's be clear. Because at the end of the day, I feel like as soon as we did something like that extreme, people are going to realize what Zach Martin actually is on this team.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying
after the O-line today, I don't know what.
And again, mind you, it wasn't like we had any starters in there. But I mean, people are not understanding the offense. Like I say all the time, and most people know that anyway, especially real football fans. You're gonna look at football and you're gonna say the offensive line works the best when it's a chain.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because that's how it works. That's why I always say they're not looking for necessarily even the 5 best guys. They look for the 5. I mean, the 5. I'm talking like 5 individually. Look for the 5.
I don't know if any of these 5 guys today matter, because I was like, this is terrible.
See, and you know what? I like Austin Richards, but I'm like, he's a rookie. He's just not ready. He's a project. They were looking at him more as a project, and that's why I say most of these guys, when you're looking at that, you're not expecting to be in a situation now where Zach Martin is not with the team for the last. Because again, even stuff like that, having that veteran leadership. Again, we're talking about just some mentorship. Because of course, it's
like
not
with Gilmore and Diggs.
What's that again?
I said like with Gilmore and Diggs, having Zach Martin there to help coach up these younger guys.
Just coach up some stuff, because again, even with these young guys, of course, it's not a regular season game.
There's got to be more to the puzzle. I don't know if it's a drug test or a muscle injury.
Who knows?
Why? I don't know. Signing Diggs and Hooker is still important.
Yeah.
But what's Megan Zach's? Is it just because he doesn't want to have that team friendly deal? Maybe he's actually he's like, no, I want the bag.
Because he might be looking at, my thing is, I'm like, he could be looking up and naturally, I feel like it's gonna be very natural. Yeah. You're gonna start to hear. Of course, he's been in the league for how many years has Zach been in the league? 9.
He was there with Dez and Witten still, and
2014. I think 2014 was 2014 his rookie year or his first year.
No, when was Manziel? It was 2012. Was Manziel.
2012 was Manziel,
and we drafted Zach Martin.
2016, right?
No, because
2012.
Yeah, I think it was 2012 because Dak was 2016.
Because Travis Fredericks, I think, was a rookie 2014, wasn't he?
Right. So
that was his first year. Yeah, so because Zach was there for a couple years, I think, already at that point.
Yeah, because it was the Manziel draft, and we took Martin instead of Manziel.
Oh my God!
I'm pretty sure that was 2012.
And I was, which is oddly enough, I was. That's exactly what I wanted. Cause I remember that day. Because and hey, look, I said it the same way that I called the Tim Tebow project. I wanted to see them. Like I at no point did I ever see Johnny Manziel or I see Tim Tebow and I want them to fail, because I felt like they were entertaining. I wanted to see them. But the number one thing I always said, I just don't want you on my team. I want to watch you play well on somebody else's team, because I said I
kind of wish it was somebody not the Browns, besides the Browns.
Because like somewhere, and my thing is, then they go and I went into the whole thing, and I was just like, I just know that's gonna turn into some kind of circus around here just because Romo's still here at that point.
Right.
And we're like first time.
But would Manziel be a little different if he had 2 years as a bench and then come back when Romo gets hurt and start? Maybe he may have been different, but I don't think he would
he have been watching film playing in Dallas?
Exactly.
Like because my thing is I see people saying, of course, I think Johnny Manziel is Johnny Manziel regardless, but at the same time, I feel like especially playing for the Dallas Cowboys, it's a gift and a curse. It's gonna get you more acclaim. People gonna look at you. You could be a fourth receiver and you have a big game and national news is talking about you. That happens on any other team. They're like, okay, but at the same time, so it could have made him worse playing for the Cowboys. But at the same time, it could also put way more added heat on you than you're gonna get anywhere else because the news and reports start coming out. You're not watching film. Playing for the Dallas Cowboys at quarterback position, the media, forget the media is gonna light you up. First of all, you sleep at 2 a.m. You're not even starting. It's like, hey, reports, Johnny Manziel is not watching film. He's the worst quarterback. He will never. And like, you have no reason. You're gonna have nothing else but to kind of get on it. But at the same time, it's kind of like when you look at a Zach Martin and what he's been for so long. I feel like we are not going to be able. I feel like he is at that point now where you start to hear so much about yourself. He hears he's first ballot Hall of Fame. He hears he has less holding calls than he. You know what I mean? Like it's like
highest pass blocking rating and stuff.
It's insane. And so you start hearing that stuff, and then all of a sudden you look up. You've been in the league. You're pushing 10 years or XYZ whatever in the league, and you're gonna be like, man, I do deserve this money because you start filing those taxes. You start having to pay your accounnt. You start looking at this stuff.
Right. And I was on it until then we started signing Diggs and Hooker and stuff, and I'm like, okay, why aren't we signing? Like, there has to be a reason. And we've signed Martin before, so it's not like we just gave him the bird and just burn off. Like, we've gave him the bag before. Obviously,
it's gonna say it's a different bag. Like, what is it?
And with
what
salary cap.
You remember that Tyron Smith deal years ago? It was a 10-year deal.
Right. And he was the highest paid tackle. Well, obviously, like with quarterbacks, the salary cap goes up, and the top paying quarterback is never the top paying quarterback in 2 to 3 years. So it's like, we did pay him, but I don't know. Of course, we need Zach Martin. I'm not saying.
And they start to eat it up. I mean, and like I said, and my thing, I can't blame them because, like I said, at the end of the day, the NFL contract. Everybody said the Rams proved that a few years ago. There is no such thing as a salary cap. You can work around it. I don't care whether you're going to change the money into a signing bonus or whether you're going to hit. And my thing is, that's why I say we can always work around the cap. You can always figure out something. You can kind of stretch another guy's restructure. But I think they're kind of just at the point where they're running it more. I think we also still, to a certain extent as fans, we kind of start to pick up, I guess, just our own habits and what we're used to seeing. Like, we're used to seeing him just restructure. We need some more money. They say, hey, just restructure this guy. But then they'll look up, and now we're owing somebody some money, and they haven't been good for 2 years. Right. And I think this coaching staff, not the coaching staff, I think this front office, because I really do feel like Mike McCarthy has a lot of word and say so now. So I'm like, and at least influence. So I'm like, you're watching a Jerry and Steve, and it's kind of like, we don't want to keep restructuring everybody, though, because at some point you're going to look up. Because now, what happened, and a lot of times we start looking at in our biggest years, some of our better players, we're not talking about like they're old, ancient guys, but we're talking about guys that start to get, not even long in the tooth, but they're starting to get a little older. You start hitting 28, 29. Now we're looking up.
Dak's got to get paid again.
Our playmakers are young guys. These guys 22, 23, 24, 25. Like, so now you start looking at it a little differently. You saying we're used to having to pay a Romo and Dez and your Wittens, and you're looking at DeMarcus Ware, how we're going to restructure this before we figured out that contract. Then we're going to, but now you're like, Zach Martin, Tyron Smith, we love y'all, but.
Right. It's how it should have been forever, but now it's, like, the way you explain it is like, damn, we got too many good players.
Too many. Like, that's what they always say. Either they're gonna take hometown discounts, or you're gonna start losing people, or
maybe it's a youth movement. Like you said, it's like, hey, Tyron's about to be out of here. Zach, it's been 10 years. Next draft, we'll draft one first round.
Yep.
I don't know, but then yet again, it's like Zach, you can't sit out all season, bro. Like, that's millions of dollars of fines. How can I understand people's financial, like, I'm sure they got tons of money, but how can you just give up $1 million check, $2 million check? I was like, how does that not phase anybody's mindset? So it's like, Zach, come on, man.
maybe you're smart with that money. You've been putting it back for a
for
long
sure.
time.
And I get it, but it's like, why not? Like, has McCarthy gone in there and say, hey, pay this guy? Like what's happening here?
Yeah,
something's happening here. Like, I'm just waiting for the PED report to come out, bro. There's a 10-game suspension.
What is going on, man? What is happening?
And then, but like that would help me sleep a lot easier. It's like, oh, okay. Then, I love when I don't know why, because they've made so many mistakes in the past. But nowadays, when the front office can just give it to us and just be like, haha, it's like, oh, okay, maybe Jerry ain't so bad or whatever,
See, we're about to get to the point where looking at Zach Martin, and like I said, to me, at the end of the day, I feel like if I'm in the front office, you want to be very smart, but I'm also probably going to sit here and I'm going to say, okay, what has Zach Martin done for me? What do I think he still has?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to have to weigh those options. Then I'm going to look at it and say, this is a rare window.
Right. And at what point does he have to get game ready? I mean, he's already missed a month of training camp.
And what is was it Brian Baldinger? Like they said, I think it was Brian Baldinger. They were like, Zach Martin doesn't need more than a couple weeks just to be with the team. He said because as long as Zach Martin is staying relatively in
which
shape,
he has been.
Yeah. Zach Martin is not one of those guys I worry about. Like some people, they're like, we have to get him in camp. I just want to get him into camp because I want him to be settled in with the offensive line. Because if he was just any other position, I'd be like, okay, you know what? You could show up the week before the season and I'll be fine. Like, if he was Micah Parsons, I'm like, Micah's going to be Micah. It might take Micah a couple weeks to get his football legs back into game time. But then by week 3 and on, you're going to have regular Micah back. Zach Martin, it's not him. It's you have to be working as a chain. You have to, because again, the right tackle has to know what the right guard likes to do. The right guard has to know what the center likes to do. Center has to know what the left guard, you know what I mean? Because that's how you guys work as a chain. Because you see what happens when you have one weak link. That changes your entire.
And I mean, nobody who's going to start in place of Zach Martin is going to make us better. So
no, that's why there's nobody that's going to start in place of him that's going to even be like where you don't notice. And that's not saying they're as good as him, but it's not even where you're going to be like, he's not that bad. We're not there yet. So the last thing you can do is let this season be derailed because of Zach Martin. And I know the coaching staff, what they always say, it's kind of like it sets. You're not trying to set bad precedents. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, what happens? If everybody's kind of looking up, and now when you have it again, we're talking about a younger guy now, a younger star. He's going to look up and see how the Zach Martin situation played out. Now he's going to say, you know what? I'm sitting out too because I want money. So I understand when front offices don't want to do that because they're also,
Okay, but they can also look in the mirror and say, oh, well, they paid my boy Diggs. They paid my boy Hooker. CD's about to be the highest paid receiver
ever.
What
you hope. That's what you hope.
Right.
But they also say, because I always understand guys at the same time that look at some of your older veterans and older players. And guys, we're talking about future Hall of Famers, multi-time Pro Bowlers. We're talking about, first of all, if Zach Martin is even not first-team All-Pro, everybody's kind of looking like, dang, what's going on? What happened with that? We're talking not just making All-Pro. If you make All-Pro, people are happy about it. If he's not first-team, I'm kind of like side-eyeing, like, why? You know what I mean? So it's like we have those situations. So, like I said, I understand when your front office just like you don't want to set bad precedents because, like you say, it's kind of like
that's why I'm not understanding, bro. Like there's bad precedents happening, and there's also good. So it's like I don't know.
We to me, I'm like at the end of the day, I feel like you got to bite that bullet. Like, and I'm gonna look at it. It's gonna say turn into one of those things where, do you think the Rams cared that they gave that money to Odell and they're trading for Jalen Ramsey and they're trading? No, they said we do it again because why? It got us a ring, and you can't tell me one ring for the Dallas Cowboys. To me, it feels like it's worth 2 for any other team.
Well, because we're gonna have the most, or tie for the most ever.
It will take us right back to being tied for the most ever, and then you're gonna have one of those situations. I'm talking for a team, not Tom Brady.
No, as a team. But like nowadays with like social media and stuff, we would have so much power as fans over everybody.
If the Cowboys could win 2 rings, like this would be, and like the next,
just give me to the NFC Championship game. I want to win it all, but if we can just get to the NFC Championship game, we'll have to win 2 playoff games. More narratives would be gone. If we don't win the NFC Championship game, okay, but if we win it, of course, that's even better. But if we don't win it, that's still just that much. No more one and done, which we aren't anymore because we got to the divisional round. Now it's, oh shit, 2 rounds. Like, damn.
That was me up to like a couple years ago.
Oh yeah, you always want to win it all,
But I'm now at the point where I can guarantee. For some reason, I can never. I don't think I'll be happy with even just the NFC Championship game anymore. And it used to be me. And again, mind you, that sounds crazy because we haven't been there. And I was shoot, yo, you know what I mean? So I'm like, when you get to that situation, I just know for a fact now. And again, and somebody said it made a valid point. I think it might have been Newey Scruggs. I was watching I think Players Lounge like last season, I think during the season, and he says, and it was very true. He says the biggest mistake that a lot of fans, and it's not our fault because he said if you
we're
listen
desperate.
to me, he said that's all we're desperate. He said that's all the media does. Media's like Cowboys almost 30 years. It's been XYZ. It's been 25, 26, 27, whatever. He said at the end of the day, but he said when you look at it, we're blaming players that were probably not even born the last time the Dallas Cowboys won a ring. And he said, you're blaming Dak Prescott for the Cowboys not winning the Super Bowl in 30 years. He's like, you're blaming Zeke Elliott. You're blaming Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and all these guys for why the Cowboys haven't won. He said, so yeah, of course you want to win. But he said, you're holding every time we don't win the championship or get super deep in the playoffs, the NFC Championship game. He said, first thing is everybody's like, it's been this many years. He said, you're looking at players that were not, they're probably 5 or 6 years old. He's like, he said, there's no correlation to the last team from a team in 95 to a team in 2022, 23. You know what I mean? So I'm like, we're all at that desperate state. So I'm like, I already just know at this point, we hear the jokes, we hear the narratives, and it's natural. Now, I don't focus on national media, but it's hard to not hear it. It's almost impossible. You know what I mean? Because whether you're on social media, whether you just hear it on the radio.
And because of our devotion to the team, I let it eat me up, man. And I'm just like, God, I got to respond or say something.
And I laugh when I see you getting irritated because I'm like,
it's ignorant stuff too, though. That's what really makes me want to react. Is ignorant. And that's like, okay, well, don't react because it's so ignorant. But it's like, nah. This team deserves me to react,
See, because it's me at this point where I don't even, it doesn't freak me out because I feel like I'm one of those people that kind of can look at both sides most of the times. And a lot of situations, not everything, of course, not everything, but some things. I can say, you know what? I'm only calling myself neutral. And I don't mean neutral as in like my passion for the team or whatever. But I'm talking about just like in my sense of, I can understand people that are frustrated. We haven't done anything for so long. And you know what?
Sometimes they say some just goofy stuff off the wall.
And then it's like I can understand the people that think it's irritated that people are just saying the wildest, most generalized, making the most generalized statements. Because at the end of the day, we're going to look up and say, every fan just wants to win. You know what I mean? Every fan just wants to win. So I'm like, if we're going to win, it's going to have to turn into everybody's pretty. What's the biggest thing? Especially we talk about what was the difference between the 90s Cowboys and the Cowboys now, or just the NFL in general now. Like I say, it was a salary cap. We could get anybody we wanted. We could tell everybody, come here. We're gonna do this because if we could do that today, we would have 4, 5, 6 extra rings.
Everyone wants to be a Cowboys player anyway,
because it's gonna get you the name. It's gonna get you that. It's gonna get you that again.
So Kellen Moore calls and says, "I'll give you this backup guard and Zach Martin for a first." You would say no. If we get another guard in return plus a first, because he knows Kellen Moore, because he knows Zach Martin, Chargers.
If Kellen Moore says he wants what?
Yeah, so like I'm only using Kellen Moore as an example because he just came from us.
Yeah,
that's exactly. He's in a situation with Zach, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna give you not a starting guard, but our backup guard. So whoever it is, plus a first round pick for Zach, you wouldn't do it?
No. And the main reason I'm going to tell you why I'm not going to do it, just because we draft too well.
Yeah.
Like, to me, and I'm not even saying that, it's like a tongue-in-cheek way of just saying, it's a first-round pick. Of course, everybody would love a first-round pick because you don't know what that player could turn into. It could be another Michael Parsons. Now you have 2 Michael Parsons. It could be another. I'm not saying another quarterback, but I'm saying it could be a star quarterback. It could be a Pat Mahomes type of quarterback. It can be a, you know what I mean, whatever. But I'm gonna look up and say, the Dallas Cowboys have shown we can find a player like that in the 3rd round.
All right, of course.
You know what I mean? We can find a guy like that in the late 1st round. We can find a guy like that in the 2nd round.
You honestly don't think nobody's called? Like how?
Look, First of all, as soon as they realize there's an issue, there's people that call right now and said, "Look, we'll give you X, Y, Z." But again, to me, if it doesn't make sense in the long term, and me in the front office, I would say it would make sense to me in the long term because I'm gonna say I don't doubt my team's draft, but what I will doubt is the ability to say, you know what, I found somebody that can duplicate, and not even duplicate as an actual do the exact same things to the same level.
We have to be negotiating then, because why? If teams are calling and we're saying no to Zach, we're gonna hang on to him. Is it just for the president alone, for the other players, or are we negotiating with Zach, or is the deal not good enough? I don't know. But if we're telling these other teams no, then obviously we know how much Zach Martin means to us.
Yeah.
But what is the holdup then?
Yeah.
What is making it still? Oh yeah, no, we're still negotiating. The numbers are just so far off, so we're not going to take your offer. Or it's like, what's making us not sign him or not trade him or keep him? Like what's doing it? Like not just yes, we obviously need Zach Martin, but if he's not coming to camp still, what's the reasoning as to why would we tell other teams no? Like, is it because we're waiting, or is there more to the story? I'm telling you, and it could be the conspiracy theorist in me coming out, but if something is why are we not doing what we're supposed to do?
Yeah.
Or why haven't we done it yet?
Yeah.
Or are we trying? Because a lot of times this front office will do their due diligence a lot, and people, when a free agent goes somewhere else, everyone on Twitter goes ballistic. But they come to find out, well, we called him and we offered him, but he went somewhere else. So I can't be mad at them for that.
Yeah.
Like when I see reports that we offered him this amount, then I'm cool with that. So as long as we're trying, and I feel like we are. I don't think we're just sitting there not doing anything. We don't do that. Like I know people love to say Jerry and Steven, that's how they roll, but they don't, bro. They just do things at their own pace, and it's obviously as slow as molasses. So we understand that aspect, but at the same time, it's like, okay, there has. Obviously, Martin helps us. We know this, so why not? What's the number? Is Dak's number going to be that much crazier? Is CD's number going to be so crazy that we can't recover? There's no way that signing Zach Martin will cripple Dak's new contract or CD's new contract, which CD doesn't even need yet. The salary cap is going to raise even more.
Yep.
For next season or whenever he gets paid, Micah is probably going to need everything guaranteed. So I don't know if they're looking too far ahead, maybe because Micah doesn't need one yet either. But I know nowadays it's all about paying players early, whatever. Yep. So sometimes there's so much happening right now, and
where you have to try to
what if they do? What if they're like, screw it, trade them? I'll shit my pants. If it does happen, let's just hypothetically say they do trade him, then they have to be just really, really pissed off at him because we wouldn't do that to a guy like that. Something really had to have gone down for that to happen.
And I don't think slow down the process.
I think week 1, Zach will be there. It'll probably be under his own free will, but at the same time, I don't want him to get injured or anything. So I hope he is ready. I know he won't need all this time to prepare, but you always, and I know he's been training with that O-line cat. So I know all that's great, but it never matters.
Yeah.
Once they get into the game, it never matters what they've been doing because the game is different.
Completely different,
Fucking that pec to bust or that ACL to bust or that Achilles to bust. So I hope he is doing what he's supposed to do. I really do. And it would,
and especially to that, I'm like, just keep it loose, just stay in loose, and
right?
All that.
But it would be the most Cowboy thing possible if he holds out and comes back in week 1, he tears his pec and he's out for 6 months.
Something crazy,
And then
that's why I'm like, you need him. That's why I said I want him in the mix for at least a couple weeks. So to me, that's saying like, by because when's the first regular season game? The
9th, right, or the 11th?
Somewhere around there. So I'm like, we're not talking. It's not like super far away. So I'm like, I feel like Zach could have about another week and a half off, and then after that.
Well, I think this is the last week in Oxnard, and then we're coming back here.
Coming back to Dallas.
But then once you get back here, the cuts start happening and stuff, and it's not really full-blown training camp mode. It's just more so preparing for week 1.
And I'm saying exactly for that reason. I think it literally will happen somewhere around then. Like once the team gets back here, he's here. It's like, hey, you know what? Come on down to the office. We need to we need to work this out. Because again, like I said, everybody always sounds like everybody wants to play hardball until you look up and you say, all right, a season about a week and a half, 2 weeks out. We have got to get this done, man.
Nobody will ever be able to convince me otherwise if week 1 rolls around and Zach Martin's not playing, that there is not more happening. I'm giving him every benefit of the doubt I can. But week 1, Sunday Night Football, if he's not with this team, dude, something's happening. I don't care what anybody says. Because then you're getting fined like double for missing games and stuff. You're getting crazy fined. And there's just no way he's going to be missing out on $20 million or some crap.
Yeah, that's a little bit of money. Wait, what'd you say? Was Zach the Potato? At least you guys are fans of Carolina. They scored 0 today. They scored nothing.
Panthers?
Nothing at all. Oh man, hold on. I need to check that out. See, I was trying to keep track of some of the other games, just seeing what was going on around.
Well, I know Bryce Young wasn't in there for that long either.
He took it. It's funny. You go to ESPN, first thing you see is NFL preseason week 1 takeaways. Bryce Young has tough debut, so he could not have been that pretty. Like, you know what I say is Bryce Young to me personally, I would have taken CJ Stroud over him. I'm a Bryce Young fan. It's to me, it's something about CJ Stroud. I just think
he's more pro ready. I think.
Yeah,
Bryce Young is just a really good player, but you know what I'm saying, not really pro ready in a way.
Yeah, because to me, I don't want to even say the size because he's small and we've seen guys like Russell Wilson and all that. But at the same time, what happened? What was Russell Wilson? It's funny because we'll naturally talk about the league completely different when guys start getting older and not like their accomplishments early in the year. We're talking about early because, like, let's say Ben Roethlisberger, the Steelers won a ring early in his career, but that was at the point where, again, like I will say, to this day, some people hate it. I literally, it disgusts me.
Yeah.
QB win-loss records. Because we say it in jokingly, like it's cool saying it in passing, like, hey, this guy got, but at the end of the day, I always say it tongue-in-cheek, and I always try to let it be known I'm saying tongue-in-cheek, because at the end of the day, we saw young Ben Roethlisberger. One thing I'll give him, he was a gamer. He had that fire in him. And again, that's what that team in general had with Pittsburgh. We had Joey Porter, we're talking about Troy Polamalu, we're talking about those guys. But at the end of the day, they would win games 13-10. They would win some games like 13. That defense was shut down, like locked down. And if you win a game, you can't tell me the quarterback won this game and I'm going to look up and say his defense literally gave up a couple field goals. And because, you did exactly what you had to do. Because, again, the worst thing you want to see is a team with a lockdown defense and a quarterback that makes stupid decisions. It's like, bro, they would have given up 10 points if you didn't give the other team 14 on interception. You know what I mean? So he always had that. But I'm like, the QB win-loss record always drives me crazy. So that's why when we go to talking about smaller quarterbacks going to Bryce Young, we're talking about guys that might be a little smaller in height, shorter in height, I guess. Mm-hmm. It's like it always goes to Russell Wilson did this, and Russell Wilson had that same thing. He was a gamer. He had the Legion of Boom. Like they were literally, that's an entirely different defense. When you get a name like that, it was not for no reason. You know what I mean? It was like they set the tone, and then he has beast mode back there in the backfield. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was just out there 350. 3-4 touchdowns every game, and then they win a Super Bowl.
And I know the Broncos team last year is nowhere near what that Seattle team was.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Russell, he wasn't all that.
You know what? And it's funny because when we're talking about it, some of these guys, they have it's like you're looking for the perfect mix.
Yeah.
Of I guess you want to say veteran leadership, and you're looking for young guys. And like the Broncos, I think they overloaded too much on just young guys, and they felt like Russell Wilson can come in here and kind of just lead us to the promised land, or at least have us in a successful space. And it was like,
and now he's playing 2 quarters in the first preseason game and stuff. Like, that don't make no
sense. I saw someone say it. I thought they were just saying it jokingly in passing. He actually played.
Because I saw the same thing, and I looked, and his stats kind of indicated that he was in there a little bit longer.
But
and I was like, that's kind of corny in my opinion. Not the first preseason game.
Yeah, that first preseason game.
Apparently, everything Russell Wilson does is corny. He had not anymore because of Sean Payton, but he had his own office and all that, and his own trainer and stuff or whatever. So pass him to do that, but you're risking a lot for a team that kind of desperately needs a Russell Wilson.
A lot, man. Because again, the NFL is one of the most, I guess you want to say, likely sports. Especially, you lose your quarterback, your season's done more times than not. More times than not, you lose QB1. I don't care how well your team is built. I don't care how much depth you have. One thing you usually do not have this crazy depth is quarterback, because there's a reason that you're a starter in the NFL and you're not. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, more times than not, you lose that QB1. I would say Zach. I'm not Zach, but Bryce, 4 of 6, 21 yards. No touchdown, 3.5 average, so it was check down city.
Yep.
Matt Corral, 15-22, 126.
Stroud had an interception. Stroud didn't look
it was right. Hey, you know what I said? That interception, it was exactly that kind of interception you see a rookie quarterback throw.
Yeah.
It don't matter how talented he is. It would literally look one of those. It was like one of those. And to me, I feel like especially a first round pick, high level first round quarterback. I feel like you need one of those because to me, those are one of the throws that shows you this is not college. Hey, you know, in that college ball, you would have snuck that through. This guy is going to be working.
Of course, being in Houston, I'm a little bit biased, but the Texans to me are always going to Texan. So when I see Stroud do that, I'm like, oh, they're done. It's totally wrong of me to think, but Stroud is good. I think the Texans still just need a little bit more help.
Yeah, of course. That's why I say, and I'm always like, the best thing to do, especially when you're a rebuilding team, is you want to look for. I don't want to say the perfect mix of guys, but you want to look for just starting, I guess, like roster building pieces. Because I feel like the biggest mistake a lot of teams doing it when it actually needs to be focused on a rebuild is they try to rebuild, but it's kind of like then they give up on their rebuilding goal like mid, and it's like, okay, maybe we can just reload. It's like no, because more times than not, you're gonna do more damage to your team trying to reload instead of just rebuild. I rather and of course, I'll say the NFL is one of the weirdest sports. You can't really even bank on a rebuild because you don't know how long it's gonna last. Because football itself is like a game of, I don't say a game of chance, it's a game of luck. You don't know how. Again, everybody's one hit away from an injury. You know what I mean? Or one just play. Especially we see nowadays, guys run routes, tearing Achilles. That's how the league is. So I'm like, you can't halfway rebuild. You're either gonna rebuild or you're gonna go into a sale. We're reloading or we're rebuilding. To me, if I draft CJ Stroud, what they did perfectly, I will say, is they got Tank Dell. They still have does Mechie play for them? Or the Jameson
back? Yeah,
Mechie's back with them too.
So he's back.
So I'm like, Mechie's back, and I'm like, you need to go into the rebuild. That means now you think you have your franchise quarterback, you think you have a receiver to build with you. Now you think you have another one if you can get Mechie, and he can actually give you something. Now, what do you need to do? Focus on building that O-line. I can do nothing with my quarterback if I do not have an O-line. And again, I think a lot of guys, what I will say that makes that easier is because it's not like the NBA. You get 2 drafts, you get 2 rounds, and then you have to try to figure out what through there. It's like, hey, look, if we were trash last year, unless we get free agents or we trade for something, odds are you can literally, with the right pieces, you can reset your whole team in a couple years. Because again, you can find an all-pro lineman, O-lineman possibly. I'm talking about chance and of course your scouts doing their proper work. You can find an all-pro O-lineman or something like that in the 3rd round, 4th. You know what I mean? It's how it is. So I'm like, you can rebuild your team if you set your team up perfectly, but you can't halfway do it. So I'm like, I'm not a Texas fan. Of course, I was like, yeah. If it's not the Cowboys,
hard for me to not keep up because like in the mornings I listen to the talk radio just to listen to sports, and then here, you just see them on the news and they play before the Cowboys usually, so you kind of just keep up with things. So it's just hard for me to just not peek over there. And I ain't gonna lie to you, when I see a couple interceptions thrown, I'm like, yes, but at the same time, it's hard to get away from them being here.
Hold on, we need to get somebody to get some of these guys in the chat. We need some chats, get some questions, some more topics, so we can kind of come. Cause I'm about to. I didn't realize we been going that long, man. We're kind of just talking. I was like, see, that's perfect. That's why I said that's all.
First one of the season, man.
That's what I want to grow into. We're getting closer to the season. I want to be able to just, because I'm about to dive into the game, so we can start kind of picking out. I have a few points. Start picking out. I'm trying to get some chats in there so we can get some voices. We're definitely gonna start spreading, especially more on socials and everything too, just to keep it rolling.
Yeah.
Get our feet wet. We're trying to get it.
The season, man. Yeah,
Trying to work out the kinks and all that, but yeah, man, this is, what is that? So what the final score ended up being? Let's see, for the Dallas Cowboys and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Final score, because I don't think we didn't score again after that. Well, we got that last fumble. I think we got to 22. We had 22.
Yeah, I think John
Stevens moved around a little bit.
It was John Stevens who got the last one, I think.
The last touchdown, from Will Greer. He has a little bit of a. I'll say he has a little bit more gamer, because what I will say, what Cooper Rush has is he has that, I guess, that stability. He uses that stability. Cooper Rush is more times than not going to do much to lose you a game. Right. We saw the Eagles game last year. That's when they bet on him.
But he won't do enough to help you win it either.
And it's like you have to get that proper game because we've seen him throw. Let's go back to the Vikings game. What was it? 2 years ago. We'll go back to that Vikings game.
Yeah, with CD.
That's where we needed him. We're talking about throwing to CD Lamb in the end zone. We're talking about he's had some games where he's made some big throws.
Yeah.
But we have to get to that point where, first of all, and let's be clear, we're talking too much about a backup because your backup is your backup at the end of the day. You have him
Philly and he throws 3
interceptions because and what I said, I didn't. That to me, I'm like Cooper Rush. I can't put anything on him. He did his job, but at the end of the day, I'm like you're a backup for a reason because they turned into what did the Eagles do that other teams weren't doing? They forced him to play quarterback, not kind of just in the flow. They said no, we're going to make him throw.
I've always been since he's been on the Cowboys, a Will Grier supporter.
Yeah,
and I love the preseason, especially because he plays pretty much half the game.
Was he at West? Am I thinking somebody else? Was he at West Virginia? Or am I thinking somebody else?
Will Grier was at West Virginia. And
I remember
100%. Yeah. And then he did have that one pick today, but he came in and threw that touchdown. And he's a really fast guy. He's very underrated speed.
He has more to his game. That's what I said. Yeah.
Right. So I've kind of been pushed. It's not going to happen because Cooper Rush run those 4 games and yada yada yada. But I kind of want Will Grier to kind of be the number 2 guy because his scramble ability, he's a gunslinger.
What they say to me is like I always say, I want my backup quarterback to have as much. Pretty much, in a way, I guess I want to say it. I want my backup quarterback to have a lot of the same tendencies that I want my starting quarterback to have. That my starter quarterback has.
Right.
And I don't mean, of course, he's not going to be to that same level, but I want them to have those tendencies because that way you're not having to flip the entire playbook.
Rush and Dak are completely different quarterbacks, but
that's exactly.
Dak and Grier are a little bit closer.
And again, it's not the same level, but yeah, it's where you're not having to completely flip your entire scheme. Right. And because, like I said, because Cooper Rush came in and we were like, okay, look, we're going to have to run the ball a little bit more. We're going to have to be smarter we weren't pushing the ball down.
The game slows down a lot with Cooper Rush. Yes, I know he won us those 4 games, but that game against Philly, he just looked horrible. He couldn't even get the freaking ball to the, you know what I'm saying? Too many balls in the dirt. Grier, I think Grier has a little bit stronger arm.
A little more.
He'll take more chances, which we know Dak does. So you wouldn't really have to change much between Dak and Grier as much as Dak.
Yeah.
But I know it ain't going to happen.
I think it's definitely worth the conversation,
Rush is going to be the number 2 guy. That's just how it's going to be. But I would like to see Grier kind of, you never know, one day take that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely worth the conversation because when you get to and that's not even going to the fact of the matter is of course you're adding in the mix. We're talking about guys like look at Deuce Vaughn today. He had let me check those stats. I want to get everything specifically.
Stats were enough to be like yes.
So final score. Jaguars 28, Dallas Cowboys 23.
Yeah.
You had, let me check the box score.
Yeah, Jacksonville had a 2-point conversion too.
They went for it multiple times. Did they? Yeah. I don't think they kicked an extra point the whole game.
They got one and they didn't get any more after that. So
after that, because I know the first time they scored got to
right.
That the Turpin gift.
And see, that goes to the conversation we were having earlier about Turpin. Look what happened. A touchdown and a 2-point conversion, all because of Turpin. It's like, come on, man.
And those things add up because, of course, it sounds like no big deal, but they add up. Like, again, we're talking about you're cutting corners and you're trying to figure out who's going to be the 53.
Right.
Yeah, you're in a whole other. Let me see. Let me check those stats real quick. Let me make sure I'm getting it.
Deuce got the juice, that's for sure. That's all I saw. Deuce with the juice. Ooh, a bit frozen.
See.
Yeah, Deuce with the juice, man. That's what I saw. I saw enough. Froze again. Just little technical difficulties here.
Is mine off or yours?
No, it's good now. It was froze for a little bit.
Was mine showing?
Yeah, like it was showing you. It was just froze.
Okay,
that's all.
Yeah, so I'm like, so we have some of those, man. I was like, yeah. So of course, yeah. We're kind of texting back and forth a little bit about just the DB room in general. You talking about a guy like a Wanye Thomas, how exactly is he gonna fit on the team? And it's like we're like at some point, yeah, we're very DB heavy.
I mean, we're gonna cut good guys, that's for sure.
You're definitely.
I don't know.
Because we are DB deep, and my thing is, I'm saying, of course, we already who your cornerbacks are. You have Diggs. Diggs is going to be there. Gilmore's going to be there. Bland's going to be there. Mm-hmm. Israel Mukwama's going to be there. He's going to be there, and Israel Mukwama's going to be there because he also plays some safety for you too. You know,
well, he's Dan Quinn's, type, so he ain't going nowhere.
You see exactly how he used it. And what I will say. Number one thing I love about Dan Quinn is that he plays football players. Right. He doesn't care what your position is. He's not worried about the position. What exactly will we look up? And people talk about it to this day. We get Taco Charlton over TJ Watt. No, not TJ Watt. What's TJ Watt, wasn't it?
Dan Quinn. Yeah, it was. And
yeah.
Dan Quinn would never.
And why? Rob Marinelli said. No, it wasn't Rob Marinelli. Who's the D coach?
Nolan, wasn't it?
Was it Mike Nolan?
Mike Nolan, or
I'm trying to remember who was there. Because I remember the coach was there when we picked Taco Charlton over TJ Watt. He said that Taco Charlton fits the scheme more so, and I said that is the dumbest thing.
That was when we were drafting players for what we needed,
and not football players. That is the dumbest thing. You know what coaches do? You get the best player and you make it work. I don't care what you do. That's what we do now. That's what Dan Quinn's bag is. You could, because again, we could have easily gotten Micah Parsons and done what to him? You're our middle linebacker. That's what we're looking for. We're gonna keep you nothing more than that. Right. You see a guy like that, and you said, "Hold up, he has pass rushing capabilities,
everything." Yeah,
he's especially that rookie year, because last year he's more so predominantly your DN. That's why he beefed up a little bit more. He wanted to kind of fit around. But what did Dan Quinn do? He's a linebacker sometimes.
Everything.
He's on the line sometimes. You know what? He's back at linebacker. I'm blitzing him from the linebacker position. That's how you use. I'm like, you get a TJ Watt. We can go back a little further. I was a big fan of course, Tyrann Mathieu at LSU. But what was the biggest thing? Of course, because it was the drug failed drug test back then. But at the same time, I said when you saw him slip and slip and slip, I said, I'm one of those guys. I'm not looking at your measurables, because we talk about the pro day, what they call the t-shirt warriors all the time. Guys going and they can run fast 40s, they can jump 50 inches, they can do all that stuff, and that's fine, because every now and then you're gonna find a guy that actually meshes it. Look at Chris Johnson, 4.2 speed, and some guys they can do that, but they can't actually bring it to the field. You see him, because you're asking, how often are you running 4.2 as a running back? Just straight line, and then all of a sudden Chris Johnson gets out there. His entire game is you can't catch him. If Chris Johnson gets ahead of you, matter of fact, you have the angle. He's too fast. He's gonna outrun your angle. And I'm like, when I saw Tyrann Mathieu play time after time after time again, and you saw him start to slip in the draft, I said, that's a football player. I'm not worried about your height. I'm not worried about this, because you know what I'm do? I'm gonna find somewhere to put you. I don't care if I kind of just use you more like the way that Dan Quinn uses it now. You look for those hybrid type guys like a Jaron Kearse. You look for those Donovan Wilsons. You look for those guys that you kind of move around a little bit.
Israel will be that soon, I think. He's only a sophomore, right? It's only his second year. Israel, or his third.
It's either second or third. He hasn't been in that long.
But he's going to come into his own. He has way too much versatility and size to not contribute. And he's going to earn the spot always.
Because now we're opening up. We're talking about what is the future of Jaron Kearse? You know what I mean?
I bet he gets time before Zach Martin. At this rate.
you know the funny part is because the conversation keeps turning into Jaron Kearse is going to be.
I love Jaron, man. I can't.
I love Jaron Kearse, but that's what they say, that they're trying to figure out who's going to, because again, at some point you start crunching numbers, you start pinching numbers, and you can't, because we would love to keep everybody, but you're not going to keep everybody. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, you're going to look up and you're going to say, who do we feel like we can replace? And that's not saying you're replaceable and we don't feel like you're very valuable, but who do we feel like it's easier for us to replace?
Well, if we sign him before Zach Martin's gone in my book, because there's just no way we can afford him.
I feel like it.
You know,
you don't want to.
If we sign one more guy, because every single one of the guys who needs a contract is going to get paid. Hurst is probably the last one who we could do like a Diggs deal where it's like, oh, just a great deal, but a big number. Hurst is probably the last guy, but if it's anybody else other than Hurst, Martin is gone. I don't know how. And then you start making phone calls. I mean, you have to. You can't sign everybody.
You ready to cut bait?
Well, I mean, if we use this money on somebody else, if we don't, if we're staying pat and it's for Zach, great. But if you see, before week 1 we signed Curse, or now CD's the highest paid, or Dak just got his deal before the game, because they may want to get a deal or two out of the way before week 1, so that player can just be focused. If it happens, then I think Zach's gone. But if it doesn't happen, then 100% Zach will be back. But if we throw out one more deal, knowing how this team is with their salary cap, whatever mindset, how is that gonna get paid, bro? Because his deal will be front loaded. It'll be fully guaranteed. It'll be whatever.
And to be honest, that's exactly what I'm telling you. I'm saying, because that's exactly what my point was, where I said I'm not looking long term if it comes to Zach Martin. If I have to tell Zach Martin, you know what, I'm about to give you a 2-3-year deal, and it's going to be guaranteed, and it's going to be fully loaded. I'm gonna bite that bullet. And so if we're talking about salary cap, having to work around and get under, one thing I'm not gonna do, I don't mind working around salary cap when it comes to guys that I feel are, I don't say of lesser value than Zach Martin, but are not as important to what overall, because again, you could say this guy over here is very important to what we want to do as a defense. But then if I look at my defense, I say, at the end of the day, I still have a Michael Parsons. At the end of the day, I still have a Trayvon Diggs. I still have, at least for the time being, I have a Donovan Wilson. For a Jaron Curse, I still have a Donovan Wilson. I have Malik Hooker. I have an LVE, Damone Clark. I have all these guys. I have a DeMarcus Lawrence. Keep adding on. Mozzie Smith, Jonathan Hankins, whatever. Keep going.
Well, I mean, Lawrence is a free agent, right, after this season?
Who is it?
Lawrence is a free agent, right, after this season?
And my thing is, DeMarcus Lawrence, to me, I take him unless he just has a change of heart. I feel like DeMarcus Lawrence is one of those guys that he wants to be a lifetime Cowboy. Right. I feel like he wants to be able to retire and say, I wore that star on my helmet for my whole entire career. Because after he took that last time, because they said there were other teams that were interested in maybe signing him, and he.
Right, and then now Zach all of a sudden is just a pay me or buy guy. Like, he was supposed to be that kind of guy too.
And I feel like Zach, I'm gonna bite. Like I said, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm like, you know what? If I say Zach Martin, because to me, if anything, worse comes to worse, are you telling me in 3 years Zach Martin is gonna be one of the worst guards in the league? No, because if you tell me in 3 years Zach Martin is not the best, but you tell me he's a top 5, it's worth it, because that's gonna be the last year of that deal. Essentially, we're talking about trying to get on a guy, and you're trying to just load them up, because at this point, I'd rather pay a Zach Martin and restructure a guy like I don't say a Mozzie Smith. I don't say Mozzie, because you can't restructure rookie contracts. I don't think. But I'm saying like a guy of that ilk. I'm talking about like he's in his 4th, 5th year. A guy like you know what I mean? We're working
Hankins maybe, or
I'm gonna restructure yours to get us under the cap or whatever it is, because I will take what I think I'm going to get from Zach Martin for the next 2-3 year deals. Right. Because at the end of the day, you can't play hardball with everybody, because we would love to. That's why we talk about all these guys when you see these huge, crazy contracts coming up. You think all these front offices wouldn't love to play hardball with some of these guys, especially when they see the numbers they're asking for. But it's like, at some point, when that owner and that general manager and all those guys go to lay down in bed at night, they're going to sit here and say, okay, it sounds fine, like we're in a battle right now, in negotiations, but what's going to happen when the season actually starts?
What's going to happen? You know what I mean? I think Zach will be here by week 1. I would like to think him as just a person in general would want to, hopefully. Of course, he can do what he wants, or we re-sign him to something to get him here. I know that'll be the best way, the good faith answer, just give him what he wants or whatever. But I don't want to think, and I'm probably just in denial, but I don't want to think he's not going to be there week 1, because obviously we need him. But like I keep saying, there has to be. Yep. You would have to hope they're trying. You have to hope that they're working. You just won't know anything until the deal actually happens. Like, oh yeah, we've been working on this for 2 months, and then it's like, oh, okay, good. I don't think we're just sitting there doing nothing and saying
just kind of
you know. Yeah. So we have to be And then again, I know the running joke with the Cowboys is just screw all players, but we take care of our guys, man. That whole narrative is gone. Like we do what we're supposed to do.
Cowboys pay the players that the Cowboys want to keep here. It just always at the end of the day it's gonna come down to just making sure we keep the right players. You know. So I'm like we get to going into what was it? Because going back to the game today, who do we have? I think we have. I want to kind of tap into that real quick because we starting to hit what?
Killing it.
About
9
an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Kind of see if we push the 2 tonight.
Killing it.
And then we're gonna get a little bit more work on building up the chats and all that stuff. But yeah, hold on. Let me get into that. What was the game? Okay, so final score is what I say 28-23 Jacksonville Jaguars. Today you had go back into it. Cooper, because Cooper Rush started the game. We saw how he started the game.
Yeah, Davis had a rough day.
Nothing spectacular. He ends up with 10 of 12, 83 yards passing, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 6.9 average.
That's a Cooper Rush stat.
That's a Cooper Rush stat line. It's like, hey, look, see, and you know what I said? Cooper Rush fits perfectly with the first team. I'm talking about if you just have to take Dak out because in this offense, because what this offense is going to be, it's not going to be a dump off to Malik Davis, and he's going to get tackled for 2 yards. These dump downs are going to be going to a Deuce Vaughn. It's going to be going to not a Deuce Vaughn. It's going to be going to a Tony Pollard. These dump offs are going to be going to a Jake Ferguson. They're going to be going to a CeeDee Lamb, a Brandon Cooks. So when you look at Cooper Rush, you say 10 to 12 instead of the 83 yards. That might be 160 yards, and it's going to become you're just putting the ball in your playmaker's hands. That's what I think the offense is going to be more based around, not just. Hey, we need CD. We need you to run a 30-yard route. It's like, no, I need you to run this 8-yard route. But you know what? We set it up so perfectly where Brandon Cooks is running down the seams. You're here. These 8-yard little catches can turn into 15 yards. And my thing is, even if let's say it's 8 yards and you're tackled right where you catch it. I feel like it's gonna turn into that Patriots. Yeah, honestly, look at it. The year the Patriots won the Super Bowl against that Falcons team. Everybody knows the 28-3 game. Mm-hmm. That season. Just watching them, it felt like so much. They weren't necessarily focused on their run game. They ran it still a solid amount, but they used their pass as their run dang near that whole season. If you watch it, it would literally be Tom Brady going back and just throwing it 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards, and you do it over and over. Next thing you know, you look up. So when you do run it, a 4-yard gain doesn't seem like anything because you're not ever worried about feeling like you're behind the chains. Right. It's always easier to complete a pass than it is to get 5 yards in a run, you know? So I'm like, I feel like that's what our offense is going to be more utilized on and based on.
We had a few deep passes. One was that 30-yard to Tolbert that got called back.
Yeah.
Ferguson had a couple down the middle, you know, which I was a Hendershot guy, but now it looks like Ferguson's going to just run away with that.
You know what I'm saying? I feel like Hendershot is good in that crafty third tight end role, but what's going to affect him, I feel like, is John Stevens Jr. is starting to make some noise. So
where did that guy come from?
That's going to turn. All of a sudden, we're talking about guys again in just training camp.
All right.
His name's been floating the last couple of weeks, especially last week. His name's been floating. So I'm like, that's what I said. That tight end 3 spot is getting real dangerous. Peyton Hendershot. Like I said, I feel like he's good in his role, and if it worked last year because it was
he had a couple touchdowns.
You had Dalton Schultz, then you have Jake Ferguson, you have a Peyton Hendershot. So it's like we have these 3 guys, and Dalton Schultz was a veteran. But he's not even like the oldest guy in the league or anything like that. But he's your veteran of the group. So you have Jake Ferguson, Peyton Hendershot. So Peyton Hendershot, we kind of fell in love with the 2 young tight ends. We kind of see what they are. But you start to see the deficiencies in this game more so because, you can't ask anybody to be perfect 100% of the time. You can ask them to be, but it's hard. Nobody has 0 drops. But at the end of the day, you're going to look at a guy.
Ferguson a lot, I think.
See, I trust Ferguson way more because, again, for some reason last year, I kept hearing so much there talking about his stat line toward the end of the season. I was like, a lot of people forgot Dalton Schultz came back at this point. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and Jake Ferguson, he was still trying to learn the game. He's still trying to learn the game. So I'm like, we're talking about young guys. Like they say, tight end is one of those positions. It's hard because it's more nuanced to what you're doing. Whether it's talking about run blocking, you're going to have to help out on that. We're going to need you a lot. And again, we talk about a lot of tight ends. They think a tight end is just a safety valve. You don't realize how much of that stuff is just technical and finding holes. And a lot of young tight ends can't come in the league and just figure that out on day one, and that's what it is. So
I think Ferguson might already be better. You could probably find 10 plays the last 2 seasons where Schultz just was terrible on blocking, where guys were just smoking them,
Yep.
It looks like Ferguson may be a little bit more well-rounded in the blocking aspect. I think he's going to do great receiving, and he will score, but we haven't seen that yet. But now with Schultz gone, I think we are going to see it.
Yeah.
Blocking aspect, I think Ferguson already is notches above Schultz. So many times, slow motion replay, Schultz was just getting wrecked, dude. And it's like, what the hell? Or just completely missing the block,
Yeah.
Like,
definitely, that's for sure. Yes, see, to me that goes without saying, because I'm like, I don't even put. That's what my mind. I'm telling you right now. I'm just telling you right now. My mind is already on Jake Ferguson being my number 1 tight end. And once we get Luke Schoonmaker like built in, because let's be clear, he's your 2nd round pick.
Yeah.
I don't care what coaching staffs will tell you, they're going to try to give that kid like as many opportunities as possible. On purpose, you have to. It's like you're going to look up, because they're going to look up at the end of the day and say, Peyton Hendershot, he was undrafted, wasn't he? Peyton Hendershot, I believe, was undrafted.
I think Hendershot was.
So you're going to look up and it's going to say, that's when you just start doing by value. It's the way you run a business. At the end of the day, your 1st round pick, your 2nd round pick is going to be more value, or you're going to give them more chances. Now, somebody that was undrafted could be better than them, but you're going to give that kid every chance you can to show you.
You think they're gonna, what do they do? So do they hope John Stevens falls to the practice squad, or they just keep him and bite the bullet on Hendershot? I mean, Hendershot probably has a better chance of coming back, maybe, because John Stevens is a threat, and I don't even know where that dude came. I mean, he was obviously undrafted. I know
that. And my thing is, one thing I never want to do is hang on to guys just because you feel like they're going to be easier to hang on to, if that makes sense. Yeah. Meaning, if I say, hey, we have Jake Ferguson, I think Jake Ferguson is going to be at least for this season, he's going to be my number 1. Then let's say, hey, I'm going to give Luke Schoonmaker, he's going to get healthy, he's going to be back in shape, he's going to get further removed and just get himself more acclimated to the playbook and the scheme. Okay, let's say Luke Schoonmaker is my number 2. Start season is my number 2.
Yeah, Hendershot.
Jose. Yeah, Oscar. Appreciate you, Oscar. Yeah, Hendershot. Yeah, he was undrafted free agent. So you're gonna look at a guy like Jake Ferguson. I believe he's gonna be number 1 at least heading into the season. Luke Schoonmaker could be number 2 heading into the season. I'm talking about opportunity based. And then now you're gonna look up and say, you have some teams, I feel like they'll hang on to a Hendershot just to say, oh, you know what? I feel he'll be easier to hang on to long term than maybe a John Stevens.
Yeah, Hendershot had a touchdown. Remember the game where him and Ferg, I think it was a Thanksgiving, or no, like around Christmas with the kettle.
Yeah.
I know Hendershot is going to produce for sure.
He's going to produce. That's what I said. So, but my thing is, I'm like, now again, because we always know how training camp combos and talks go. It gets very different now when you're going to start looking up and saying, okay, what can John Stevens Jr. do? Can he give me more? Can he give me a little more? You know what? Can he be a solid blocker? Do I feel like he can be a red zone target? And I'm saying that's where we're going to start getting
the next couple games. I think John Stevens might have to be in there a little longer just to determine. Yeah. Like the games where Ferguson's going to sit out and say it's just Luke or John Stevens, or then if we're going to keep Luke too, he can just get a little bit more healthy. Once John Stevens, just give him 3 quarters and just see.
Yeah.
Throw the run blocking at him, throw the pass catching, because he obviously catches passes in practice. We see it. And today he got a touchdown. He's obviously a big body. His number's a little funky, but at least, he's a receiver, You
start going on to it, yep.
Yeah, so it's like.
But like you said, yeah, Oscar said, yeah.
We got too many good players, man. We know we're going to cut some guys who we don't want to cut.
Yep.
That's just the nature of the game. So it's fun to watch them do what they do now. Yep. I just know that we love tight ends, and we keep 4 on the game day roster sometimes because we run block with them, but we do. Schultz had a 3 touchdown game. Not many tight ends can do that. So we're going to get the ball to our tight ends. But of course, we do love them more because we'll do the 2 tight end blocking, on certain running plays and stuff. So we love our tight ends. That's just the bottom line.
What do you saying that? What do you feel is gonna happen with Sean McKeown? Because he's made a few plays during training camp. So he's always been known as the better blocker.
Yeah, we got to cut somebody. We got to
cut somebody. Like you said, we do. Like you said, we do tend to keep more tight ends, especially now.
People want to think that we're going to turn into this to a running. I think we're going to throw the rock 1,000 times, bro. So we may all of a sudden be like, screw the run blocking. We're gonna pass it. So who can catch the freaking ball? Who
you know what I
hit
feel
their
like?
hands?
I feel like Mike McCarthy, Brian Schottenheimer, they're going to be more, like I said, like we starting the live or early a little bit. I said the best coaches improvise. You know how to adjust. I don't care what your plan was originally. That's fine because that's your formula. That's your scheme. That's what you're comfortable with doing. The best coaches know how to say, you know what, this is what I want to do.
Right.
This
Pollard's
is
fast
not
enough. Deuce is fast enough.
Yeah,
Make it cut and just go. Screw blocking. You know.
Exactly. It's just hit it and go because I'm like you said, we're talking about your tight ends. Like I said, Jake Ferguson. I think Schoonmaker's gonna. I think he's gonna be your number 2. Personally, my opinion. I think then you're gonna ask for so now throw in another mix, like you just said. Right. If we keep Ford, what are we looking for? Are you going to be keeping Let me see. Are you going to be keeping John Stevens Jr.? Are you going to look to keep Hendershot? Are you going to be keeping Sean McEwen? So like I said, that's going to be very interesting. I am curious to see.
They say it every season that every cut is going to be hard, but this season it really is. Especially our DBs, tight ends. I feel like we pretty much know every other position, but the DBs and the tight ends to me right now are the hardest cuts in a way, just because there's so many good players.
Yeah.
So it just kind of depends on what route they want to go. We know who the receivers are. We know, of course, the running backs and the quarterbacks, and the D linemen, of course, is always an easy one. But like maybe with the linebackers, but there's just not that many bodies there. But with the DBs and the tight ends, it's like, holy crap, man. Who, which route do we want to go? Do we want to run a 3 tight end set and just run it down their throats, or do we want a straight shotgun 4 vert? Like who's
And that's funny. That's funny you said that because I agree with the sentiment, like you said it. I don't think it's not like I don't believe we're going to turn into this just heavy run heavy team. I don't believe that. I think we're going to.
We said that earlier, Oscar. We have.
Yep.
So many things get said every year, repeatedly, but this season is like we have a lot of good freaking players, man.
We have a lot of talent.
And that goes back to paying Zach Martin, to paying whatever. Like, who else do we need to pay to keep around? Who else do we want to keep around? But we have so many players now where it's like somebody, I mean, obviously, like there's going to be good players that are going to get released. We hope that they come back in practice field. Well, who do we want to take the bigger chance on? Do we want to cut John Stevens or do we want to cut Hendershot? Like, what do we want to do? Like, who do we trust more to come back? I don't know, but you never know because the other teams, they get their pick or whatever. So I don't know, with the DBs, with the receivers, is like, we're obviously going to keep Israel. Well, then who's after that? Yeah, I know Eric Scott has been balling, but today he wasn't balling too much, in my opinion. And now it's his very first game. I know he was, I know he's a new kid, so I'm not gonna be that guy.
Yeah, we're not dumping. You're never don't want to be.
But it's just like
I'm a fan of it. Yeah, see, you know what I said. And the biggest thing is Gilmore said how like a lot of skill set, like he likes the skill set that he has. So I'm like, you have a Gilmore saying that. Yeah, Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn were just been speaking going about him, especially when it going in OTAs after OTAs. So I'm like, you have all that. I'm like, that, like you said, it's very refreshing. Like I said, it's very refreshing just hearing that we have too much talent, and not too much, but so many weapons where you're having to figure out how you're going to allot them. I'd rather have that issue than not because we have seen go again. Let's talk about last year. You looked up what happened in the playoff game against the 49ers. As soon as Tony Pollard got hurt, I felt like this sense of like we're still in control of the game at that moment before the turnover. We're still in control of the game, but I felt just like this sense of
the coaching staff went away from once Pollard went down, it was different.
And to me, it didn't have to be. Because again, we could have just kind of stuck to the script because we saw at that point the game turned into a defensive battle. Right. You know what I mean? It was like, hey, look, it's gonna be who can kick the last field goal, who can score the last point. So we should have just rolled that into the ground. But I felt like we thought, you know what, we lost this weapon, and we only have CD out there that's really gonna be your real roof off the top. You know what I mean? Because at that point. That's what I said. To me, it was like I felt we were still in control, but Tony went out of the game, and I'm like, and I just felt like this sense of.
That's why I think keeping, Deuce Vaughn is probably just as fast, man. So it's like,
and my thing is, and I love Deuce's game because I don't view him as like crazy fast. I don't view him as crazy agile, but he's a football player. Yeah. He's one of those guys that when you're talking about a playoff game or late in the season, he's going to have those. And I think I've said this multiple times in videos. He's going to have one of those moments where you're going to look up
and go 60 yards.
Or something like that. Or you know what? We just giving Tony a breather. But it's been kind of a defensive struggle. Tony hasn't gotten off like crazy yet. But we're starting to hit that late third, early fourth, middle of the fourth, and all of a sudden you put Deuce in, few big runs, we end up scoring a touchdown, we win the game. And I'm like, he's gonna have those mixes because you saw him the run he has. You can tell guys still don't respect him because they think he's too small. That means nothing when it's actually one-on-one. Crazy different world.
He's gonna win those battles, and on the goal line, the last thing anybody's gonna expect is a 5'5" dude to hit the hole right in the middle. But he could just squeeze in, just whoop, because he's so tiny. Just go
watch
just
the slow-mo of that run. He has it in the hole, just a subtle, quick little jab. And again, and he missed the tackle. He wraps up, he shrinks up a little bit. He shrinks his body, missed the arm tackle, and then he makes another guy miss and more yards after the run. That's what I said. So I'm like, Deuces, the size never bothers me. Only thing I'm gonna worry about is this coaching staff not putting him in too many. Because one thing I'll say, he's very willing, but I don't see this coaching staff put him in too many pass blocking situations. I've seen where you have some horses, and I'm talking about we talking about defensive players on other teams that we talking about. We know they muscle. Say it again.
So Jalen Carter, the favorite.
Yep. See, here we go with the. Oh man, no. Yeah, I'm talking about that Kittle catch. I had to put Diggs on my. I put Diggs on my bad list for that day. And I was like, I'm gonna be nice to you, but I'm gonna keep it to myself until tomorrow. But see, I'm like, we get to those. Yeah, like you said, the same thing. Yeah, when CP went down, it was. But like I said, once we get to that,
need to change, but they're gonna change because CP's just so good.
Yeah.
That without him, the coach may not even give a shit who is behind Dak. But with Deuce, maybe just because he's a coach's son, or because he has so much hype, or maybe by then he's done some incredible things. Deuce is like, well, we're not changing nothing. Just give Deuce the ball because he's gonna make it happen.
Just make a play and forget. Hey, we can talk about the runs as much as possible. The thing that had me the most hype was the that 3rd-and-3 catch, I believe, in the red zone
today.
Yeah.
Yes.
Was Will Greer? Yeah, Will Greer. I think I was. Yeah, to Deuce Vaughn. I'm like, he is so versatile. We just said the same thing.
Right.
Deuce taking number 2 before week 10. I said, who is it? Rico Dowdle has his thing that's hanging him in there. Malik Davis they might be the pass blockers, but I'm like, when it's going to come to like opportunity,
they've been around. I don't know. They've been around long enough. I know Malik had a really good preseason last year.
Yeah,
but they've been around long enough that it's like if they aren't careful. On hype alone, Deuce is going to take their spot. But Deuce is going to earn it, and he's going to get it. But, like, what I'm saying is like, next preseason game, maybe let Deuce be the number 2 back. Or, if you don't want to be the starter, cool. But I do think one of these last games, he should be the starter.
Are you giving Tony any run in this preseason, even in the third game?
No. Even in the third game? I would give Dak run before Tony because the whole foot thing, you don't want to mess
If I give Tony run, I'm giving Tony the first drive of the third game.
Yeah, because you don't want to play with no ankles.
I'm giving him first drive at third game just so I can say, hey, look, you remember what football looks like? Okay, now get back out of here. You're done. You're done. I want you to get that feel because next week when is our last preseason game is when?
It's the end of August, I think.
The end of August. So I'm like, so you're pretty much telling him, I want you to just remember what it feels like to, and I don't want him getting out there blown up, of course, but I want him to get hit. I want him just to feel enough to say, okay, you know what? We're back in this. It's like because it's like everything sounds all good, but if like you haven't been hit in so long,
people, and that's a big topic of discussion. People's like, oh, you're not playing that all preseason. You should, or you play too much. But then he gets hurt, and then there's like, oh, he should have never played.
Yeah, I'm not looking to run him into the ground, but I'm definitely gonna give him and I say 2 max. And I think that's even pushing it because to me, I just want Tony to remember what it feels like to get hit.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, there's nothing that's going to duplicate you feeling that NFL contact. Because at the end of the day, when week 1 starts, the Giant. First of all, we have Sunday Night Football, week 1, Cowboys, Giants. Another one, running back again, week 1, Cowboys, Giants, Sunday Night Football. I feel like that happens all the time.
Right.
You're going to have to sit there and you're going to have to take some hits because what Kayvon Thibodeau, they have guys like that. One thing I give the Giants, and they showed me a lot last year, they're going to play you. They're going to play you.
But I don't see us not, like Schultz had 3 touchdowns. Like, we should out-scheme them. They're going to be better, of course, than what they were. I know they got that good corner Banks, but we should outclass them that game.
What I want, let's see. What I want this team to show week 1. I want us to play against a team that's going to fight us, but I want us to show that we're not. It doesn't even bother us because there was too many times last year again, which is crazy enough. Let's talk about our record from last year. Well, we ended up winning 12 games. We were a 14-win team at least. We blew the Packers game.
And we choked the Jaguar game.
We blew the Jaguars game. I'm not talking about games that we just had the lead. These are games we had control of. And then for some reason, it was like we flipped the switch and it was just like, all right, turn it down. And it was like I feel like once we get that out of the mix, that's what I feel like when I understood what exactly Mike McCarthy's talking about. He doesn't care about having a number 1 offense. He wants the number 1 team. Sure. To me, I feel like when you have that kind of team, I feel like even if we're not, let's say we don't score 40, let's say we scored 32, let's say we scored 31. I feel like it's going to be a more controlled game, 31. You know what I mean? Meaning, if we go up 14 points, the other team's not thinking, hey, we can get back in the game. It's like, hey, man, we should not aspire to the Cowboys 14 points. Because it's gonna take us a whole beat down just to try to get back even into it. And by the time you're going to look up in the fourth quarter and you run out of time. You know what I mean? That's what I want it to feel like. I want teams to give us 14-point leads, and I want them to think, okay. You know,
there's no reason why we can't do. I mean, with Pollard and with Vaughn, and of course the receivers, of course. Yeah, I don't know, man. I think this offense is going to just be crazy looking in a good way, in a different way because of the points we're going to put up and how we're going to put them up. We got way too much speed. CD's going to speed. If Gallup if he can redeem himself, Gallup can just, I don't know. Like, we got so many. And we fall into this trap every year of getting like this. But like I was telling you earlier in the show I mean, for one, it's a new season every season. So it's not, you can't, you got to go.
Different dynamics, different.
But this offense is like too good. Like, the players are too good,
Yeah.
So it's like, just coach.
Get
the freaking ball out.
Coach,
the ball.
Coach where you need to coach, and just let your playmakers be your playmakers. To me, I feel like that's the best coaches know how to do. The number 1 thing you can't do is be overly critical to things that sometimes are just natural flow of the game. Because
I think sometimes Kellen Moore did that, but I don't think Brian Schottenheimer is like that. I don't know.
I feel like Brian Schottenheimer is going to let these playmakers be playmakers. And the number 1 thing I'm going to say is, I feel like what helps us to an extent is that this is going to be Brian Schottenheimer's first year with this team. A lot of times, you usually don't have guys coming in and kicking doors down when it's their first year. And again, Mike McCarthy's going to be the play caller. Brian Schottenheimer just has a big voice in it. You know what I mean?
And that's
so. And I'm like, a lot of times, sometimes you'll have those like, look at a Kellen Moore type situation. A lot of times you have a coordinator, and the longer he's there, what happens? He feels that confidence to, I'm going to scrap what I know we probably should do. This is what I want us to do. And we're going to do that. When you're that new guy in the room, you're kind of like, you know what? I don't want to ruffle too many plays. Last thing you want to do is come here and get on CeeDee Lamb's bad side. Right. You know what I mean? Because now you're looking like.
And then you hope all those new analytical guys that we got play a factor in their meetings and stuff, at least, like, hey, or, on 3rd and 7, this is a play I think we should run instead of this play. I mean, hell, now they show it on the TV before it happens. There's a 20% chance of converting this 4th down or something with this play or whatever. So knowing that we have more of the analytical guys in our dudes' ears might pay dividends without us even knowing. It's like, well, coach, why'd you go for it on 4th down? That won you the game. Well, all these new guys we hired, they gave me options, and I chose the best option or something.
That's what running with,
And like, I would love to hear that, honestly, because it's like, oh, here's the Mike McCarthy actually using the guys that are paid for it to be used in those certain ways.
See what Oscar say? Defense is gonna be bullied. Yeah,
no, defense. It's hard for me to even elaborate on them in a good way because they're good. They're gonna be good.
It's too good. And see, that's what I'm gonna say. Especially we're going off like if Oscar's still in here. Who are you impressed by today, Oscar? Who's your offense, defense? Who's one of the guys that kind of stood out to you? Of course, we've been talking about Deuce a lot, but to me, I'm gonna say it's smaller increments, but I'm gonna say a guy like not DeMarvion Overshawn on defense, but I'm going to go to the defense side. What I saw, it didn't really even pop anything crazy to me. There was nothing like no flash or splash players today from him, but Mozzie Smith. When you're watching Mozzie Smith, majority of his importance to this team is going to be what you're not seeing on the stat.
He's going to be a very important, boring player.
Is going. Thank you. Thank you. Yep. Double team.
That's his job. Yeah.
That's his job right there. Exactly.
I want him and Hankins on the field one time at the same time just to see what happens.
That's what it is. And I said you have a Mozzie Smith. Mozzie's in the mix. You put Mozzie right in that middle. I said Mozzie was drafted for the players that we have.
Yeah.
He's not drafted. Mozzie Smith wasn't drafted to show you what
I just stand here and don't move.
Exactly. Mozzie Smith wasn't drafted to show you what Jabril Cox can do with the third team. Mozzie Smith was drafted. He was drafted to show you what is going to open up for Damone Clark and LVE and Micah Parsons and Jaron Curse and Donovan Wolf. That's what he opened up, because again we say how Dan Quinn, he likes versatility. He likes high risk packages.
Yeah.
We run a lot of big nickel. So we run a lot.
I think he's going to open up a lot of spacing for Osa too. For Diggy, because I think they were talking about pushing Diggy a little bit more to the outside because he just wasn't. Just the one technique type, a little bit more. He
doesn't have that one technique inside. Yeah.
But I heard the same thing. But we know Diggy can be really, really good, and he has the body type for it. So I think pushing him to the outside too, and of course Sam Williams and Lawrence.
And we're talking about adding Mozzie Smith to Jonathan Hankins.
Right.
And my thing is because Jonathan Hankins is more so the 54, 96, 58, 90 package with Micah Shaw. It's going to be so. You know what I said this year? I said I'm expecting Sam Williams to step into that Dorrance Armstrong role from what we saw last year. I'm expecting Sam Williams to be that guy we're looking at getting 7+ sacks, because it's going to be in the flow of what we do. It's not like out of the mix. And I'm going to say, real talk, it seems so small. I watched Sam today. I think he makes a tackle in the backfield. But what does he do? He didn't slam the guy down. To me, it was a small thing, because I always said, Sam, he plays so hard, but you want him to get smart, because he had a couple times last year just bad penalties where they're going to look up and he's a little bit too vicious after the whistle. Or, that small part of the play where it's like, okay, play's dead. But you don't also say, you don't want to take that away from him. You know what I mean? You want him to keep that capability. That you want him to keep that ferociousness. Because I feel like a Sam Williams, once you have Sam Williams out there thinking too much, he's not even going to have be that same threat. And that's what you don't want to say.
And then Cox made some plays today. I know he kind of, after his injury, kind of obviously he just kind of wasn't really a threat. But he made a couple tackles in there today, Cox, and he's made a couple good plays in training camp I've seen.
He shows some nice sideline running today.
But Cox is like a Tolbert to me. Like, they need to show me that this is like, okay, they're really back. Tolbert last season, I know he was a rookie and stuff, but he was nothing. Cox, I know he also tore his ACL and stuff, and he was okay, prior. So it's like, okay, Cox, now you're
like Mike said he feels like Jabril is finally healthy.
Yeah,
now he said especially we're talking about ACL tears and Achilles, things like that. These guys are not.
There's just not many guys that I'm worried about, man. On the defensive side,
and again, even talking about Jabril Cox, kind of like in the same sense I just said about Mozzie Smith. It's hard watching preseason sometimes, because it's hard to get a good feel for what these guys are actually going to do into the upcoming season, because you're watching them with guys that are fighting to be on the team, guys that are probably on other teams, guys on other teams' practice squads. But when I watch, so I always try to make sure when I'm watching preseason games, I'm trying to keep an eye on what you are actually doing. And not what I'm hoping to see from you, because at the end of the day, I want to see you with a Micah Parsons. Like, Jabril, what can you do with the threat of a Micah Parsons on the other side? What are you doing with the threat of now knowing that you have
Overshown?
Yeah, like you see what is Jabril going to give me, knowing that Damone Clark and LV are there, and we kind of have him just free roaming a little bit. You know what I mean? So I'm like, we're watching him out there with guys like Devin Harper, watching him out there with guys like. It's kind of hard, because sometimes you might be the only guy there in the right position. You know what I mean? On any given play. And it's kind of like, it looked like we did bad as a team. But if I'm out there with other guys that are going,
I just don't know. I don't know how. I mean, Cox may just be a middle guy. I mean, I don't know how he's gonna. Overshown gives you so much more. We know Micah gives you so much more. Damone Clark is going to be a dog. That's 3 starters right there.
Yeah.
You
said,
probably good
Jabril
on
and Overshown are going to be my lookouts for this year.
Yeah.
Like Oscar said, Overshown, like I said, we Overshown is my
one amazing play, and I'm getting the Overshown period.
Hey, I'm already sold.
I'm already on him, dude.
I'm waiting to hit the pro shop. I'm about to go hit the Star when they get down here, and I'm ready to go. I'm like, hey, as soon as y'all get these Overshown jerseys in here, let me know so I can slide on that, because we have to. I say Overshown is going to be, and again, let's be clear, he doesn't even have his NFL body yet. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm understanding. He doesn't even have his NFL body. This is his first off season. Getting some NFL training camp, because of course we know Texas, you have state-of-the-art facilities. You're not getting the same. They're not conditioning you the same. They're not training you the same. You're not having the same lifting and regimen. You know what I mean? So I'm like, you have Demarion Overshown. This is gonna be his year just to see his capabilities. That's
He's gonna be all over the place, but I think when they drafted him, they were like, this dude hits the hole and stops the run because he's so fast. But he's going to become more than that.
He's going to be, and my thing is, I said just coming out of the draft, my big, and not even, it's not worry or fear just for Overshown. I want him to just show that he's going to be able to disengage off blocks, because we all know, especially in playing in the Big 12, college football in general, especially the Big 12, is so spread out.
Like Oscar said, he showed enough against OU, like Oscar said, but he showed enough all the time. I mean, he's a dog, He was just underrated because it's just his position, and he was all over the place, and UT, whatever you want to say. But we drafted him, and I was really happy when we did anyway. But like today, those 2 stops that he had, where he was running sideline to sideline, and he was in there on the tackle on the running plays, was so fast. It was Micah-esque, just done. Before the running back could even get the 1 yard.
Yep, exactly.
So he's going to be a run-stopping animal, but I know he's going to come into his own and become more of a gadget type. Yeah. He's going to stop the run like crazy. And obviously the run destroyed us against the 49ers and stuff, so I know we drafted to stop the run, obviously, with Mazzy and stuff. So I think we helped ourselves in the running aspect, and I think we're going to trust our DBs enough now, especially with Gilmore's experience and stuff, to just be able to hold it down in the passing game.
Crazy enough, like I said, all we did on defense and having a really, really nice defense last year, we just made the defense better. That's literally all we just made it better. So it was like it's like having something already. You talking about A- level, because honestly, like I will say, and I'll give us better than B+, but I'll say A- level, just because the biggest thing last year was that we did have issues with stopping the run up the middle. And when we got Jonathan Hankins in there, that became our sealer. But my problem with that also, which is what I'm glad.
Then he got hurt.
And then he got hurt. And I was more ecstatic about the Mozzie Smith draft, draft pick. And some people were kind of like, but I'm like, you have to look at what we're trying to do. You're building a team. You can't always look for the Steph Curry in the draft. Sometimes you have to look for, you know what? Like, I'm gonna call it Dallas Mavericks. I'm a Mavericks fan.
Yeah.
We could have gone after a guy that we thought could be a scorer or something like that. What do we look for? We look for the guy, Derek Lively. We think he's a center. We think he's a rebounder. We need a guy that can block. Because you're trying to build a team. I'm not trying to just draft a guy. And what do you say? When we got Jonathan Hankins, what was the issue? He's perfectly fine, but once he gets hurt, what happens if we lose him? We're back to where we were, square one. So what you do, you go beef up that position even more. Now you get a Mozzie Smith, so that way you're gonna have those guys together. So
and just seeing the coaching staff still use the San Francisco game months later to help build your team, I was also very proud of to see. And that was another Twitter narrative that was destroyed. Guys, they don't care, but it's like no, they still took that. Oh, this is how we lost San Francisco. Let's fix it right now. Boom.
Yep.
So we used what we learned and we fixed it, which I loved. And what also made me proud is how last season we dipped our toe in the Brandon Cooks and Gilmore trade. They didn't work out. What did we do season in? Go and get them two at the same time. So I was like, I'm happy to see that a lot of things that you read on Twitter or ESPN, of course, it's just not true anymore. But so many years they were true. I understand how people are just riding with it. But now it's like we sign free agents, we trade for guys, we draft good.
Yep.
We know we draft splashy, but we also know that when we don't draft so splashy, it still works out okay, and sometimes works out better.
Those are usually our best picks when we don't look for the flash, Those are usually the best picks, and that's to me why I was so. I was just so big on just the way that the draft played itself out. Because when you did have a Mozzie Smith, like I said, you did have a Mozzie Smith right in there. Now the Luke Schoonmaker pick, that was whatever you think it is. Some people feel like it was a reach, but we didn't lose any pieces. We definitely upgraded in areas where we needed to something.
No, we've done a lot of things that.
Hold on, wait. That's that last part of exactly what Oscar said. Keeping Hankins around for another year is definitely gonna help Mozzie. That's because you know what I was gonna say. The biggest thing I was kind of like worried about when the season ended, I was going to say, okay, let's say we draft a D tackle. The worst thing we could have done was draft a D tackle.
That's it.
But then let Hankins go. Because I said, you're back to square one. You can't get a guy. Look at the best teams. What do? When you have a strength, you beef up that strength. That's your point. You want to make it an over the top strength, because that way, if you ever have any fall off, you still way better than majority of the teams. You know what I mean?
What do we do that they say we never do? Signed a player, and we re-signed Hankins. So we obviously knew what we wanted to do, and we went out and did it. That's why I don't pay attention to nothing, man, because it's like, dude, that's so old. Like, that narrative's so old.
Yeah.
But we know we needed Hankins, and we re-signed him. We still needed Hankins, so we drafted another one. Just a lot smaller version, you know?
Yep.
So it's like, we do things that we need to do.
Kind of like a change of guard. Like you say, we doing things a completely different way. And it's still new to so
it's hard for me to not be like, oh, we might be 3-0. You know, honestly, to start the season.
If we handle it, and you know what? You know the craziest part is, I'm gonna say, I don't feel like we are. First of all, I'm at the point. I'm rooting for every single win. Of course, we want to win every single week.
Yeah.
This to me, I feel like this could potentially be one of those teams. Of course, you want to win every single game, and I'm not even gonna count any losses right now. I had a video earlier. I did I think when the schedule first released, kind of went over what I felt like our schedule, our win-loss record could be. But just going into this game, of course, at the end of the day, everybody wants to go 17-0 in the regular season. That's what we're looking to do. But I feel like this is the team that's going to be more built for. Sometimes as Cowboy fans, we'll watch the season play out, and we'll lose a game or so here and there. And we'll kind of be like,
but this is a season that can make us real cocky, fan-wise. You know what I'm saying? Like, because we might win some games, you know.
See, that's what I said. And it goes to, I feel like we have those kind of scenes. I'm speaking for myself especially. I know more so. We'll have a couple games in a year where I'm kind of like, well, I don't feel like whether we're in control or whatever. But if we lose it, it kind of, to me, turns into that, oh, man, this feel like the same old. And I'm not going to lie. Last year, the Packers game and that Jaguars game, they hit me to the point. And it wasn't the fact that we lost them. And it wasn't even the fact that we had leads. To me, it kind of just felt like that. This feel like the same Cowboys when you're like, okay, we want to hop on the ride and just be okay. And that's not saying we're gonna win the Super Bowl, but that's saying I feel like this is a team that's gonna be solid. But then we can't have those kind of losses. I'm cool with us losing a drag out fight. You know what I mean? Because those happen. Sometimes you can play against one of the worst teams in the league, and what they call it, any given Sunday. Because for that reason alone, the difference between a good team and a bad team, a good team wins consistently. You know what I mean? A bad team can just win every now and then. And I'm like, so those are the wins. But I feel like this could potentially be one of those years that even if we lose a couple games here and there, like drag out fights or whatever it is, I feel like this team itself is going to be built more for actually a playoff run, because it's going to be like, I'm not looking to just put up 40. And you know what? I'm not looking to put up 40, but give up 28. Right. I'm looking to put up 32. I'm looking to put up 28, but guess what? We're only going to give up 10. Right. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a team where you feel control, but it might not be as flashy all the time, but it's going to feel like we're in more control, you know?
Well, I trust these receivers to not lose this game. Then I did, Noah Brown.
Just straight drops.
Like, just gifting the other team wins. It's like, that would never sit right with me. I don't care who you are.
Nah.
You know, I can live with drops, but to just have passes hit your hands and go over the head.
Yeah, What do you think about what do you think about Jalen Brooks, receiver?
Well, he had a few opportunities today that I think he possibly could have done a little bit better if it was Greer instead of Rush.
If it was something that you felt like more of a solid.
Yeah, he was open. There's no doubt about that, but the passes just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I would like to look at him with Greer, who would just take more chances than Rush will.
Yeah.
You know, with Rush, he missed a couple passes and he might not go to Brooks again or whatever. Greer
might
screw it and just throw it everywhere, because that's what Greer does.
Worst case scenario, Oscar. Worst case scenario, in my opinion, we have a lights out defense that all we need for it to do is score. That's what I'm saying. And my thing is, what I want this offense to be, especially what Oscar said, I want this offense to be more so actually putting the ball in Dak's hands. And when I say put the ball in Dak's hands, I mean put it in his hands and let Dak just play quarterback. Yeah. I don't want Dak to be my thing is I don't want Dak to be I don't say prototypical anything. I want Dak to just be Dak, because when does Dak play his best quarterback? When he's just free flowing, when he's just playing football.
At the end of the game when we're losing,
Dak is literally, to me, and I always say it in the same way, Dak to me feels like one of the scariest quarterbacks in the league when we're either behind or you have Dak just in that 2-minute drill where I don't need you to be trying to, you know what, Dak, I don't need you to try to hit this 15-yard pass. I need, you know what, if you're going to run for 8, if you're going to hit this receiver here, if you're going to do this, you're going to run. That's when Dak is his best, when he just turns into game mode, because it feels like he's just back out there in the backyard. You know what I mean? That's what it looks like.
And that's my thing. Having Cooks helps a lot because he's so quick off his cuts and stuff that he could get open a little bit quicker than some of the other guys. You know?
People are not understanding that as simple as that. And again, just trading for Brandon Cooks. I'm Brandon Cooks. The first thing I said was, I'm thinking about Jabril. So you Brandon Cooks, you literally are going to see that same thing we were just talking about, where I said it's a dump off and that can turn into a 15-yard gain. Right. A dump off. And what happens when you do that? What happens when you dinking and dinking and dinking? Now you send somebody deep. Like he said, that's what Mike Carter said. He wants this to be more of a go for broke type offense. Yeah. So
Dak definitely.
Yeah. When Dak remembers his legs work, give me the over. When Dak takes what they're giving us and he's just using it as like in the own flow of the game, Dak is a top level quarterback. I feel like it's when you have Dak in the mindset of, hey, Dak, we want you to stay in the pocket. Precisely. We want you to stay here. You have to just let him feel, because when he feels, that's when we're good to go. So
there's no doubt that Mike and Brian both have let Dak know that he could run a little more if he wants. There's no way Schottenheimer or McCarthy haven't expressed that to him, you know?
Yes.
But, if not, like I said, having Cooks who can break off routes really quick, and, of course, having Tolbert hopefully and Gallup, that now Dak can just start being a little bit more surgical, because it's like, okay, you don't have to go for the 20-yard, 30, 40-yard bombs every time, because we only have straight line guys. Cooks will hit the break quick and just give it to him and let him juke one dude with the spin or whatever and go.
Yeah. And especially we're talking about preseason, more majority of the time is we're talking about it's lots of vanilla, that you're not trying to give too much. But that's why I say the biggest thing you could take away from this game, it was very vanilla to an extent, but what you could see was just schematically was different. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It was more so schematically. It wasn't like, oh, we're calling these. It's like we're unloading the playbook and that's showing everything we're gonna do. But what you could kind of see was, like I said, it was more intention. The way the offense is looking, it was more intent. We're going to send some, like I said, what we saw. Forget again. I don't even want to go back to this playoff game again, but I'm going to just point out just the play that turns into an interception. What was that interception ball after Tony Pollard gets hurt? Look at the play. We had like 3 or 4 guys running the same dang route, essentially in the curls. And I was sitting there watching, like, why do we literally? First of all, watch one thing. I'll say, and it drives me crazy, because if you go back to the week before against the Buccaneers, the play, I think it was a touchdown throw to CeeDee Lamb. Watch that play. Just go back to it. Just go to CeeDee Lamb touchdown. Did he have 1 or 2 against the Bucs? I forgot. I don't remember. But I know specifically it's 1. It's kind of like it was a bunch situation. It was I think it's Noah Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and Dalton Schultz.
You had those kind of plays.
They're bunched, and it was the perfectly ran, detailed play. I think Dalton Schultz runs this high. I think Noah Brown runs like a drag. Dalton Schultz kind of hits like a little. It looks like it's like a corner hitch route.
Yeah,
and then Lamb is more. It seems more like a wheel route. It looks like. Yeah. But they ran it so perfect. But it was so much going on that as a defense, people understand. And you watch the play, the safety and the line and the corner, they got so mixed up because mind you, plays are happening like this. You don't have time to sit here and precisely detail exactly what's about to happen. Next thing you know, you look up, CeeDee Lamb's wide open in the end zone, and I'm like, this is exactly what Kellen Moore didn't do enough of. There should never be any.
And then when he tried, like those plays worked great at the goal line. And then when he tried, he would do that in the middle of the field, running 4 curl routes, and the defense ate it up.
Curl routes, that makes no sense because I said, first of all, and not even like he's doing that. He's used to doing, he can do stuff like that against if we're playing one of the worst defenses in the league. If I'm playing against the 49ers, I don't care how you can, your ego can be so big sometimes it can do you more
like he
damage.
was thinking running 4 curl routes would help get the ball out quicker, but that's just the worst possible way to do
it. We're
it.
playing against Fred Warner. That's an elite cover linebacker. Elite. We're talking about speed. He has the agility. He has the instincts. Why are you running a curl route over the middle of the field? You know what I mean? And I'm saying, so you get to moments like that. And that's what I'm talking about. What you saw more today, I will say, it was just more variety on routes. There was not one play where you didn't see a check down route at some point. We had lots of those where sometimes Dak wouldn't even have a check down route. He didn't have anybody to kind of get it to. So we get to those plays, and what happens to that? We're talking about, again, how fast football works. It's either going to be an incomplete pass, it's going to be an interception, or it's going to be Dak just taking a sack. And that's the last thing you want, because, again, none of those are going well. So what do you need? You need somebody running something short on any play. That's what Brian Schottenheimer said. He said, I want pretty much every play to be a possible scoring play. And what happens on that? Because let's say if I'm sending CeeDee Lamb on a curl route, if I'm sending Brandon Cooks on a seam route or a post route, deep post, I'm sending Michael Gallup on a go or a hitch or a comeback. And then you're throwing in your tight ends. What do I have? I have Deuce Vaughn running a quick flat route. I'm running him having a quick drag. Then all of a sudden I had those get what is it? Then I have what is it? Niners had those. They had it. They especially, that's what I say. Right. What I say, especially when you look in the sense, and we only had X amount of playmakers. You know,
too quick of passes would just cause too much chaos, especially with the routes being nothing but 5-yard curls. The DBs, linebackers, they would eat those up.
Yep.
So it's like, and there was no check down or nothing because it was like, just get the ball as fast as possible. Yep. So Bosa doesn't get you. Well, now it's a pick because the linebacker's right there. You know.
Yep. Christopher was bullying Dak at the line of scrimmage. We had, who was it? Put it on the and see it's especially, it was the one, I think, what was it? Oh, it was the Rico Dowdle catch. Yeah. If you're watching the catches before the fumble, when you're watching that play alone itself, there was pretty much nobody even in that area. Why? Because you have a man, you have your outside, your X going deep. Then I'm saying you're running so many different variations of routes. One thing Kellen Moore would get into, you could tell that Boise State offense you would watch sometimes, it would become, I don't want to say so predictable, but because one thing I want to say about Kellen, his offense, it wasn't the fact that his offense was predictable. That wasn't the issue. The fact that the offense, Kellen Moore's biggest issue to me, he never figured out how to call plays in a flow of a game. Like I said, it always just felt like he had a play sheet and he would just be going off his play sheet. You know what? I want to run this. I'm going to run this. You know, I do want to pass the ball, so I'm going to call this. When you understand sequence, that's what we say scripted. Usually, let's say your first 12 to 15 plays can be scripted.
Yeah, not unpredictable, but definitely inconsistent.
Sometimes. It's inconsistent because it will be so many times that he catches the defense off guard because it's some stuff where you're like, okay, you know what? He threw a little twist. And then sometimes it's like, hey, you know what? Kellen Moore would kind of call a play as if, hey, you know what? I have CeeDee Lamb out here. I have Dalton Schultz, or I have Tony Pollard, or I have Michael Gallup. I'm saying like he goes into the offense thinking that way instead of saying, you know what? As well as I think my players can play, I have players that can also catch things in space, get things in space. Because again, there's no reason CeeDee Lamb shouldn't be running 15-yard posts. Then you can have Brandon Cooks running a go route. Then you have Michael Gallup might be running. Michael Gallup can run an 8-yard hitch. Then you can have I'm not a Dalton Schultz. Then you have Jake Ferguson or XYZ. Like I said, at some point, I want to see somebody running a drag or flare on almost every play. Because there should be something. I'll take 3 yards or 4 yards before I take 0, you know?
Oh, and we got guys who are just way too fast and quick to not. Because those 3-yard drags could turn into 50-yard plays.
Like nothing. Especially Cooks. Cooks to me is going to live here. Like you said, I don't think this is going to be some kind of shut the game down where we're just sitting here just going to run the ball 40 times and Dak's going to throw it 20 to 25.
That's what they want us to think, but it ain't going to happen.
What?
So they want us to think that, but it ain't going to happen.
No. Dak can still get his 30 throws a game.
Yeah.
We still can possibly run it because I think what we're going to do now more, like Mike McCarthy was saying, I think he was saying earlier in the offseason, he wants this to pretty much be where the defense doesn't know what we're doing, pretty much anyway.
Yeah, the flood concepts.
Flood concepts are going to. We have, like I said, we have the potential. I just don't. One thing I can say, we need to get this Zach Martin thing locked away.
Yeah.
We have got to shore up this O-line because, and my thing is O-line depth. We need to figure out what exactly is going on behind Tyron Smith. Because that swing tackle, they're talking about the swing tackle. I think it's Let's Go right now is looking to be your swing tackle, and he was not looking too good today. And again, we're talking about because
the whole offensive line was terrible.
It wasn't pretty. We had a lot of times Will Greer was making plays just off of him making plays,
right.
you know. So we're gonna. I think we have to get that locked up because, like I said, you knock on wood. We feel like you always good for at least a few games where Tyron Smith's gonna miss. Just at some point where you're just like, okay, it's a banged up foot. He tore his pec. Then you have to, and Terrence Steele's coming back. So I'm like, as long as we lock that up, I feel like today just showed.
Well,
the players that showed that, like you said earlier, the players that made plays were the players that we can kind of count on and expect, you know. So
the lineman we got from the Jets, Joba or whatever, the one who got hurt this
Chumi Edoga.
Yeah, you know, I don't think he played today, obviously, so we don't know the severity of that. But I mean, there's some guy, friggin' Dalton Reiser, the guard from the Broncos, is a free agent.
That we put him on. Yeah,
I keep seeing his name, and I'm like, well, hasn't anybody signed him, honestly? So we
they're talking
might have to get some guys. If he's hurt for a good amount of time, we're gonna have to sign some dudes.
You're gonna have that. See, that's what I said. We're definitely today. Actually, today, if anything, it just showed the.
If they ain't starters, they're terrible. So we gotta get some more in depth.
If they're not starters, and my thing is, like I said, even to an extent, I just want to be able to see. Because we know the preseason is important to somebody. Because you talk about guys trying to make teams, you're trying to find out who's going to round out your 53-man roster. But at the same time, it's always just still kind of hard for me to really gauge what we're watching completely because, like you said, you don't know who's going to be playing with who. Like I said, I can't look at a Jabril Cox and really tell what he's going to give me playing alongside of Devin Harper and also playing alongside, like I said, Marquise Bell was out there. And he was flying around a little bit, but you saw him out of position a lot. And that's why I said you start talking about getting into the back end of our backup safeties. You're gonna have Nahshon Wright was pretty solid. He's okay. He wasn't special, but he was okay. And like you said, because
I think the second game is going to show a little bit more of what we want to see. Of course, it's hard to base anything off the very first preseason game, and 3 especially. But I do think 2 for the younger guys is going to show a lot. 3, obviously, you have a little bit more mix of the veteran guys. 4, it's just kind of there's only 3 this year, right? So it's just like.
I think so, yeah.
Like that. So it's like this second game is kind of a big deal coming up for these younger cats because the third game is a little bit more veteran work, but you'll still get some of the young guys. So I think the second game will be like for all the young folks that we want to see, it will show a lot more.
And all those others, See, yes, that's what I said. So today, we had Deuce Vaughn, 8 carries, 50 yards, a touchdown. Rico, 6 carries, 21 yards. Obviously, a fumble. Jalen Tolbert, 2 catches, 29 yards, a touchdown. Dennis Houston, solid player. Again, we're talking about again because now you're looking at and we don't know how deep that is. Or we're gonna go 5-6 deep or Semi Fehoko. Or we talking about is he still potentially making the team? Let's go to defense a little bit.
I'm kind of over that guy, Semi.
That's what I said. If Jalen Brooks can get a little bit more just get a little bit more help from the quarterback next game. On his opportunities, I say, I think you're gonna see the coaching staff start to kind of throw that. What we talk about potential. My dad always said, it'd be like potential has a shelf life.
Right.
You hear that all the time. People have potential has a shelf life. So
and that's Semi right now.
You have to start making a name for yourself at some point. So we get to that. Like I said, who else? John Stevens, 5 catches, 56 yards, a touchdown. Jake, of course, Fergie, 3 catches, 38. Like I said, he looks comfortable.
He's gonna be fine.
He looks comfortable out there. Kavontae Turpin, 1 catch, 15 yards, a touchdown. I mean, not a touchdown, 2 targets. I think, like I said, one of those is a drop. He's gonna have to show me some consistency, man. We can't. we can't be banking on too much from. Let's see. Defensively, Marquise Bell had 10 tackles total 10 total tackles today. Devin Harper 6 tackles. I think, which is crazy enough, Damone Clark had 5 total. Yeah. He had 4 on that first drive.
One drive, yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, yeah, you're looking at guys.
Yeah, he probably got pulled too, I would imagine, after that, because it's like, yeah, you're good.
We don't need to see anymore because I saw enough. Like I said, we overshown. So we have some guys. This thing is running on through there. We might run this stream about another 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Go start getting the kids.
Yeah.
Situated and whatnot. But and like I said, we're gonna get more we're gonna get more people in here, get the chats rolling. Like I said, I want this to be more interactive, especially just about the fans, because we all know what we think,
Right.
Get some of these guys. Hey, we appreciate you, Oscar, man. You have a good night. Appreciate you for tapping in, supporting. Go ahead and make sure you share with your friends, let your people know to come on, hop on in here, man. We appreciate you. Have a good night.
Saturday is the next game against Seattle,
That is the next game. So I think when we get back to figure out what training camp is, I'm gonna be dropping a couple more videos.
Yeah, bro.
See what's going on, and then like I said, because we're gonna get these streams, we're gonna get it actually situated. So we're gonna be rolling. Especially, like I said, week by week one.
For sure.
I want this to be like a.
It all started somewhere. Pat McAfee started in the basement, dog.
We got to start in the basement, man. Keep it
rolling.
rolling.
It's just $10 million.
Now look at you. It's what they say. You can't, Rome wasn't built in a day, man. We'll get there.
Right. We'll be all right.
Like I said,
we play Seattle next, right?
Hey, let me check it out to be sure. Yeah, I think that does sound about right. I know
that one's on TV actually.
You said it again?
I said, and that one will be on TV.
See, yeah, because you better get on down to Dallas, man. What you doing? I think I had it out on CBS. Yeah. The Seahawks. It'll be on the 19th. So was that next Saturday at 9:00? Oh, 9:00, man.
Yeah, that game's gonna be on until 1 a.m.
Oh man, yeah. Hey, you know what I think we're gonna do next week?
Yeah,
we're gonna have to get a pregame.
Yeah,
we're gonna kind of run into what we saw and then go off of that because we sit here till 2 a.m. We'll say those for the regular season when we have a crazy one. Hey, I'm not going to bed, man. Let's go ahead.
I can't even go to sleep.
Yeah, no.
We're winning big anyway.
Crazy one. Yeah, nah. We're gonna be good to go. Yeah, Seahawks on the 19th, and then it's the Raiders to wrap it up. And then, and then a couple more weeks, and then after that, so the final preseason game against the Raiders will be on the 26th of August, and then the Giants on September 10th. September 10th. So we are right around the corner, man. We're getting closer and closer.
Hell yeah, bro.
Dallas Cowboys lose 28-23 against the Jaguars. It was it's pretty much just the game to see with some of the young guys, see what they can do. We saw some splash plays. DeMarvion overshown. Saw Deuce Vaughn. Will Greer had a couple plays. Cooper Rush was solid. I'm saying he's just your backup. He is what he is. We know Cooper Rush is at this point in his career.
Yeah,
steady. So
I still want to see more Greer. Whole game Greer. Probably the third game. Maybe even next week.
Something like that.
One less game.
You think how much run you think Dak is getting this preseason?
No, I think he'll get a quarter. He's too much of a baller to not want to.
I feel like he'll give McCarthy at least. See, you know what?
He'll get a quarter.
Uh-oh.
I mean, not a quarter, a couple series.
Yeah, I feel we'll probably turn that. I feel that because with only 3 preseason games now.
Yeah, Dak's smart, man. He's gonna want to feel it a little.
Is the second or third? You think? So you think they probably played it? Well, how did it go last year? Was it third game starters play? Or second? I don't remember.
I don't know because you could be like, well, Dak, we don't want you to play the third game because in 2 weeks is the real game.
Yeah,
we want to get a series. It's this game right here.
Which is why I'm like, I can see Dak play whatever game Dak does play. I can see him. I can see him honestly getting. If the coach staff knows this is it.
Right.
And now let's be clear. If it's one of those games where you look it up and Dak has gotten touched a little bit, hey, go ahead and pull it because we're not doing this. No, we're not even playing this game. We'll wait. But I can see if it's a fairly clean game, I can see Dak getting a whole half. I'm saying if the coach staff knows this is it, like we're not letting you touch anything else because you do want him to get that familiarity to actually process. Because again, we're talking about now. We didn't get to see Brandon Cooks today. You didn't see CeeDee Lamb. You didn't get to see any of these guys. So you want them to at least get their feet wet because they're out there playing against your own teammates for so long. You want to get them a chance to get it rolling. So. Yeah, we're about to hit 10 o'clock, man. We are definitely going to do this again. We'll keep you guys updated. We appreciate the support.
Yes, sir.
Everybody check that. We'll check this out later on. Go ahead and tap in next time. We'll keep you guys updated. Go ahead and hit that notification bell so you get the updates. It's my boy Ryan. We are going to hit you guys real soon. And again, training camp will continue. So I'm going to just continue dropping videos on that. Yeah. I appreciate you guys. Like I said, as always, enjoy your night.
Thank you, bro.
We out of there.
Later,
Have a good night, man.
All right.
Peace.